Druid, Unholy Death Knight Arms Warrior. Now, this is a very difficult composition as a Disciplined Priest to heal through, but one thing that we credited Mercy for last week was his ability to survive, and that is certainly going to be tested against this composition.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. The Jungle Cleave going to be able to play hyper-aggressive early on. Kelkist, he's taking quite a bit of damage. Tony Farrell as well. It looks like Otlov team, they're on the back foot. Right away, Tony Farrell, he's in some trouble. Survival Instinct trades out. He's trying to kite, try to avoid a little bit of damage, but they need crowd control on Rivendell. Otherwise, I feel like Battle for RMD, they're going to be able to ride this momentum.
I'm wondering if Mercy was anticipating what I thought, that he would be the target. Maybe he built his talents around being the main focus target, but actually, Battle for RMD are going after the Hunter and Feral Druid in a split damage strategy. A huge amount of momentum early on. They already banked a third of the Mercy's mana with that initial exchange, although Rivendell as well falling behind on mana. Sharpened Blade going to be activated. Zray going into battle stance. Big damage over onto Kelxie. Looking to try and trade out the Exhilaration. However, it's healing reduced from Sharpened Blade. Mercy's Penance comes in, but not stabilizing Kelxie just yet. Shadow Mend and Smite's likely to be casted here. Mercy going to break out of the stun. Looking like he wants to cross midfield for a Psychic Scream potentially. Mercy moving over. Dark Archangel activated. The team of Otlov Gaming going to be doing increased damage. Zray recognizing that, retreating back around the corner, but the Gladiator's Maledict absorbing some heals, and he is ultimately forced to trade his most precious defensive cooldown, die by the sword. Although a critical mistake overlapped with the Iron Bark of Rivendell, and now Zray's defense is wide open.
Yeah, he's going to be in a little bit of trouble moving forward. Battle for RMD could be on the back foot. Otlov team did manage to stabilize in the matchup. Good positioning here by Mercy. Should be able to get the heals rolling, but Kelkist, he's in a lot of trouble. Goes in for the trap. He's looking to play aggressive, but this could backfire. Right now, Mercy is having a really difficult time topping him off. Pain Suppression's going to fade. Kelkist does finally start getting some heals. The Shadow Man's going to land to stabilize him. Otlov team still good pressure on Zray. He's in midfield right now looking to get aggressive and interrupt into a Cyclone on Rivendell. Nicely set up there by Tony Farrell, but still, Kelkist, he's forced into the aspect of the turtle. Battle for RMD, they've just had pressure from start to finish. This is looking really good.
This is a huge amount of pressure for Battle for RMD. I mean, they're completely in the driver's seat. Otlov team are struggling to finally close this game out. If they can secure a freezing trap, Zray could be in a lot of trouble. They do, but Kelxie's still on the back foot. His Gladiator Safeguard proc absorbing some damage as they try to push Zray over. Zray going to be charging over to Mercy actually for a moment, looking for the intimidating shout, crowd control, looking to finally finish Kelxie here, but the intimidating shout is now over. Mercy is freely healing, activating the Dark Archangel. Big push for Otlov. Tony Farrell securing a Skull Bash, putting Rivendell behind. However, activating Iron Bark before being interrupted has reduced the damage on Zray significantly, so much so that he is still alive at this point. He may otherwise be dead. Nice read by Rivendell. Mana slightly in favor of the Restoration Druid, but not by much.
Yeah, Mercy and Rivendell are both struggling in this position. We're only 3 minutes into the game, and there's not too much left for both teams. Zray could easily fall in just one nice setup. There's a trap. Zray playing defensive. He's in defensive stance. He's trying to get out of line of sight, but Kelkist, he pushes in. What is Zray going to be able to do? Rivendell finally connecting the thorns, but does he have the healing? Asphyxiates down onto Kelkist. Mercy grips him away, but he gets gripped back by Rusty. They're trying to take him down. He's caught in a bash. Powered barrier might be enough to keep him alive. Mercy trades out the last little bit of his mana to keep him up. Now Otlov team, they need to play aggressive because they have run out of time.
All right, let's see if they can close it out. They're still so far behind. If Zray can get in range and land and execute, Kelxie is surely going to go down. War Banner laid down by Zray, trying to predict the trap, but gets killed off. It may not matter. Kelxie is under so much pressure. 0 mana left in the tank for Mercy. Kelxie on the run, just trying to avoid death at this point. Rooting up Rusty into mind control. Kelxie holding on behind the pillar, dropping down a snare trap, but ultimately isn't going to use it to kite, instead disengaging back onto target. They've got 20 seconds to kill Zray, 18 seconds, but their healers in crowd control first, and Kelxie may just be walking into his demise. Exhilaration available, used as soon as possible. Rapture powered shields come in from Mercy, buying as much time as possible. Dark Archangel in what could be the final seconds of the match. Can Kelxie push Zray over with this crowd control? Mercy secures the Psychic Scream, but Zray's defense is ready and available, and more than enough to continue the push to kill Kelxie.
In the last match. Now the base here for Otlov team, it could be a different story.
Let's see what happens here. Bay entering the arena. Who's going to be the target for Otlov team, bringing in a Paladin? We've not seen this composition with a Paladin healer. Perhaps this could be one of the best variants Rivendell stunned up, and it's looking like Kelkiz wants to go for a freezing trap, but unable to find it just yet. Ursul's Vortex on the Harpoon, beautifully placed by Rivendell. That is going to put the team behind. Now Rivendell anticipating an attack on himself, activating Iron Bar prematurely, then stunning up the Hunter. Huge pressure right now from Zray's team. They are just chopping them.
Well, turns out bringing in Bay might not have been the best answer. At this point, he's really struggling. Zray all over him. Finally, Kelkiz is going to get topped off, but Bay's still in a lot of trouble. He's got the Divine Shield. He's going to use it. Divine Favor comes in, but Tony Farrell, he's just not getting healed. They're going after Rivendell, but I think he might be able to survive. Gladiator Safeguard does proc. Otlov team having to be careful. If they could continue to push and aggressive, I feel like Rivendell would have just died, but right now, Bay just struggling to keep Tony Farrell up.
No cooldowns really left for throughput. Tony Farrell's going to stay very low on health for some time. Rusty switching over to the Paladin, looking to finish this. Zray with the Blade Storm as well, cleaving down 2 targets. Big Divine Favor, but not onto 2 members. And Tony Farrell, with the Blessing of Protection, is somehow still alive on very low health. Divine Shield buys a couple of more seconds for the team. Can they manage to pull this back together? Can they scramble this mess and serve it on a plate? I don't think so. They're falling way too far behind. They're desperate. They trap up Zray. Zray's just going to trinket it. Zray leaps in for the game-winning fear. There's nothing left for Kelkiz, and it is going to be game 2 in favor of Battle for RMD.
I feel like we're seeing Mercy again. What I want to see Otlov team do, throw caution to the wind. They just need to run at Rivendell from start to finish, leave Mercy by himself, try to survive with Pain Suppression, Rapture, Power Word Barrier. They need to play aggression. If they're not aggressive in this matchup, I feel like Battle for RMD is just going to slowly but surely secure a 3rd win.
We see the Arms Warrior Death Knight Druid underneath the bridge, cosplaying some trolls, waiting for their opponents to try and cross, and then immediately going to pounce. A bit of a stalemate in terms of positioning. It appears that Otlov team want to have the battle commence on top of the bridge, and Battle for RMD want to battle below. Until one of the teams decides to compromise this positioning, we might be at a bit of a stall.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. I mean, normally what happens in the situation is both teams play a little bit cheeky, but it ends up with resulting in one team eventually pushing in. We'll see how it plays out, though. Otlov team, obviously they don't want to be forced below the bridge. It's not an ideal position for Mercy. He wants to play up top. I'll be curious to see what talents he's playing. He might be actually playing with the knock. So if he has that, that's going to be really important for him to actually survive this matchup, and he really won't get much benefit of it on the smaller map, and I feel like that's what they tried to set up on Blade's Edge. Mercy on this map with that talent should be able to survive a really long period of time.
I'm waiting if we just see a death grip on Mercy. If he even peeks his face out around the corner of this pillar, he's going to be stuck downstairs on that Disciplined Priest. Rusty and Zray are moving in. Mercy's trying to run. It's no way. Don't let this Death Knight get anywhere near me. And he is going to be able to get a lot of distance there on the center of the bridge. Rivendell now crowd controlled. Kelkiz moves in, but the War Banner was placed right before the grappling hook, so he has to wait for the freezing trap. Great break on that by Zray. Now Mercy in a stun, and Battle for RMD are going for the throat.
This is such a good opener for Battle for RMD. Mercy, he's in so much trouble. Look at him barely holding on. He's traded out Rapture. He's traded out Power Word Barrier. He's traded out almost everything. Gets interrupted on the Shadow Man. He can't recover his health. Does, of course, have the Pain Suppression, but this is a complete nightmare situation. Rusty and Zray, they are all over Mercy. There is no counter pressure right now for Otlov team. They're just waiting to lose.
Now, this is the one thing we credited Mercy's skills was his ability to survive while being the target. Zray using Die by the Sword to stay aggressive here, respecting the freezing trap to stay on target. And this is the aggressive playstyle we were noting earlier on. Zray just predicting damage ahead of time to try and kill the Priest. But he is being pushed back. Otlov team look to put a point on the board. Big punish by Otlov team. Get off our Disc Priest. All right, let's see if they can get it done here. Otlov team putting a point on the board. Despite Game 1 and Game 2 looking like this was going to be a blowout, Game 3 looked solid, and they found a way to stop the Zray train. But this game could easily be a pain train for Otlov team. Can they keep it going for the reverse sweep? Battle for RMD are switching their strategies, targeting down Kelkiz and Tony Farrell this time around, and already you can see the damage.
And this is not looking good once again for Otlov team. But the thing is, they've managed to hold on to the pass. We'll have to see. Mercy, can he keep him alive? Leap of faith onto Kelkiz, but a nice heroic leap pummel. Kelkiz actually lost his pet there. unfortunately. Does manage to sum it back up. Intimidating shell lands. Mercy now still caught in crowd control. Kelkiz on the back foot. Has to every man for himself, but Kelkiz is just dying. He's just been dead from start to finish. Aspect of the Turtle trades out. Overlapped with pain suppression. Battle for RMD once again. How did they lose this game?
I mean, I think we can see the weak link here. It's going after the Hunter. It's looking like an entirely different ball game here with the target adaptation. But Otlov team, they've stabilized and they're initiating an counter attack. Zray using Blade Storm and dancing like a ballerina and hiding, trying to avoid the attacks of his opponents while Rivender sits through crowd control. He's made it through that chain. Now it's time to get aggressive. Zray moving in with a sharpened blade, moving over to potentially pummel Mercy. Mercy crashing in some Shadow Men's onto Kelkiz. Tony trying to support and forces Ray back, but they need to wait for the next freezing trap. Kelkiz going to jump in, but gets storm bolted on it. He does break out.
Zray!
Now Zray could go down. Beautiful crowd control chain here by Otlov team. Gladiator safeguard procs, absorbing some hits onto Zray. It's looking like he should be able to stay alive. Mercy mind controlling the Death Knight Rusty off the side, trying to stall for that next freezing trap cooldown, where if they can land it, they could close this game out and bring it to a game 5.
We need a preemptive Iron Bark from Rivender. If he gets the preemptive Iron Bark, Zray's going to be A-okay. But if he doesn't, he could be in some trouble. Bash over onto Rivender. Kelkiz caught into a Storm Bolt. He could easily just fall. It's the Power Word Barrier keep him alive, but it's just too much damage. Kelkiz actually does manage to survive. Mercy manages to keep him up, pushing in with the Shadow Men. That Power Word Barrier paying dividends for Otlov team, but still, Mercy's struggling to stay alive. He's getting swapped to. Zray and Rusty, they're all over him. Mercy in a position where he can land a full fear on Rivender. This is trouble time. Asphyxiate Stun shuts down the fear. Very nicely done by Rusty. That crowd control potentially kept them in this game.
Zray and Rusty switching targets, going after the Discipline Priest. Mercy has no cooldowns left here. Desperate Prayer about to fade as he retreats back to the boxes, trying to bait Zray to overextend. Still an opening. Otlov team have recovered. If they can secure another freezing trap on Rivender, there's no defense for Zray. Kelkiz is trying to land it. There's the stun to initiate. They secure the freezing trap. Zray trinkets out. He's going to just counterattack. He's going to counterattack while his healer's in a freezing trap. Could end up ultimately costing him the game. Now deciding to leap back to the boxes. Then charging right back in onto Tony Farrell. Very close call for Zray, but he's stable at this point. Kelkiz is the one who is falling behind.
Yeah, that was really questionable by Zray. Rivender was caught in intimidation, so certainly a trap to follow it up, and he was in battle stance for a moment, but Zray manages to hold on now. Kelkiz, he's in some trouble. Mercy almost completely tapped on mana, spamming out smites, trying to stabilize and also continue the pressure on Zray. Zray could be in a little bit of trouble. Rivender realizing it, throws on the Iron Bark to keep him nice and healthy if he does get caught in crowd control. But Power Word Barrier rotates back up for Mercy. That's a major defensive cooldown. If Mercy can get that barrier down, Kelkiz can just push in and continue this pressure onto Zray.
All right, let's see if the Zray's train can be stopped here. Both Kelkiz and Zray in a lot of trouble, but actually now Kelkiz has a lot of defensive cooldowns. Rapture, pain suppression, aspect of the turtle. I would say this is looking good for Otlov team. I'd almost confidently say that we're going to a game number 5 if Mercy can maintain his mana a little bit better. Kelkiz grappling hook over. Rivender shapeshifts out of the root, avoiding the freezing trap for now. Gladiator safeguard going to absorb this attack while Mercy sits through crowd control. Kelkiz moving over to secure the freezing trap, but he's very low on health and could ultimately go down. One big heal comes in the nick of time. He gets the freezing trap, but he's forced defensive, and this is the thing about the Zray train is that they just keep running you down. If you can't push them back, they are going to overwhelm you. Zray pushing for the final cooldown, maybe even just the game outright. Kelkiz holding on to aspect of the turtle. He doesn't want to overlap. He wants to keep his pressure going.
That vortex.
He manages to hold on to it, but the vortex denies the freezing trap for a few seconds. Kelkiz disengages over. Can Rivender dodge the trap? He's trying to move over and dodge it. Kelkiz is still holding on to it, but now he's stunned up. Zray in battle stance, chopping him up, looking to close it out. 0 mana remaining for the Discipline Priest. Aspect of the turtle has finally been forced. Battle for RMD switched some attention to Tony Farrell as well. There's nothing left for either team. Well, actually, there's still the Diabolus sword for Zray. He's 1 cooldown ahead. Mercy's trying to assist with the push. Dark Archangel activated. Damage increased, but no crowd control. Zray easily going to survive.
Yeah, that looked really good from Zray. And I mean, at this point, he has Dive of the Sword. He actually opts to activate it, a little bit aggressive in that situation. Rivender, he does have the Iron Bark available. There was no crowd control on him. But Zray, he wants to continue the pressure. They just can't take Otlov team down. Mercy's been doing a really good job staying alive. Kelkiz managed to trade out his aspect of the turtle, but at this point, if they go after Mercy, it's going to be a miracle if he survives. He has the Rapture. These Power Word shields are going to be really strong from Otlov team. If he can manage to hold on a little bit longer, they just need one more crowd control. Drake could easily fall. If there's a Maledict, this could be a winning situation for Otlov team. Rivender struggling so hard. Tony Farrell gets swapped to. He's caught into an Asphyxiate Stun, and Execute comes in. Saray manages to close it out with Rusty.
Pick here then.
Not exactly what's going on. So basically, if we see Diabolus walk all over, change my mind, and just destroy them, it'll make sense to me. But if it's a close match, this is going to make absolutely no sense whatsoever. The only reason I could see Diabolus wanting to lock in this composition is if it just is a counter to Rogue Mage Druid. I just don't think it is.
Maybe they're trying to find that answer before the summer finals. They're using this as
they were winning mirrors.
An experiment. I mean, yeah, but will they keep winning mirrors? I feel like over time, the lesser team is going to catch you, right? I mean, I feel like that's probably more likely. So perhaps Diabolus just want to utilize Walrix, try and figure out where they can use him and if he has a place in their team in the current meta. Fried Kitty is certainly taking a lot of damage early on, although Minpoike in a good position to pick him back up swiftly. We see Nixie in a polymorph, and Minpoike chaining that into a Cyclone. Now stun on Asgarath, setting up Fried Kitty for Ring of Frost. 3 members in crowd control. Change my mind, isolating Walrix, but Walrix appears to be alright, so Minpoike will Cyclone Walrix instead, pausing his health as it denies both damage and healing, but now disrupted by a Stormbolt of Nixie. Decent damage still on Walrix, no Iron Bark for some time. Asgarath going for a Tranquility around line of sight to avoid being counterspelled to heal Walrix through that pressure. And once again, we see that Spring Blossoms build from the Restoration Druid. So Asgarath running a talent where Efflorescence, that green circle that Walrix is standing in, applies an extra heal over time effect called Spring Blossoms. Super effective at healing a stationary target like a Destruction Warlock. Super effective at healing through high crowd control, such as a Rogue Mage. And now it's actually allowing them a big opportunity to attack back towards Fried Kitty, getting the Gladiator Safeguard and Iron Bark in that exchange. But I think it's just very important to note that Spring Blossoms build from the Restoration Druid with the Destruction Warlock synergy.
Yeah, nice Nether Ward there from Walrix onto the incoming Cyclone of Minpoike, actually catching him in crowd control. But this is one of the problems with this composition. This is a story we've seen all year. An Assassination Rogue sitting on a Destruction Warlock, they win in dampening. They just do. It just happens. It's too much consistent damage. Walrix isn't going to really have much of an opportunity to run away. I feel like for Nixie, it's such a struggle to go after a Frost Mage and a Restoration Druid. The amount of control, the amount of defense. He has almost an impossible task where he has to create solo pressure by himself while Walrix is just getting farmed in the midfield. But Diabolus, if they can pull it off, it would be a big upset in my mind. I'm curious to know why they locked in this composition. If it'll work, we'll definitely have to see. Fried Kitty and Acro still all over Walrix. Nixie trying to create pressure on Fried Kitty, but there's just no damage to be found. Change my mind, they're playing defensively really well. They're allowing Acro a lot of uptime on Walrix, and it's sort of a ticking time bomb here for Diabolus. If they can't get aggressive, if they can't win the game before 30% dampening, I just don't feel like Walrix is ever going to be able to live.
Yeah, that's the downside we've seen with the Assassination Rogue Destruction Warlock matchup, where if dampening just gets to an exceedingly high level, the Assassination Rogue just pushes the Warlock over with a couple pokes of the dagger. So they need to get kills in the early game or generate a significant mana lead and then hold it for the rest of the game and overwhelm the team with pressure. So far they do have that mana lead established, but only roughly a minute and a half away from dampening. They still haven't gotten through any of Ice Blocks from Fried Kitty. Minpoike crossing midfield but walks into a Fear. This could be a chance for Diabolus to attack back. Fried Kitty still the target, but Acro going to stop Walrix in his tracks, stunning him with a kidney shot. Fried Kitty polymorphing the Arms Warrior. Now Minpoike looking like he wants to jump in and get some crowd control as well. Stunning Asgarath, setting Fried Kitty up for a Ring of Frost, but gets war bannered by Nixie. Walrix now calling in the Infernals to try and push back, change my mind, and intercept their attack. That is going to net them the Ice Barrier, and I'm not sure if it was the Gladiator Safeguard. I don't think it was, but the longer that Infernals are down, the more that Walrix will ramp up the damage of his next Chaos Bolt through a talent called the Grimoire of Supremacy. Every Soul Shard that he spends increases the damage of his next Chaos Bolt by a percentage, stacking until the Infernals have faded. This is why you want to be avoiding Chaos Bolt at all costs during the Infernal timing. Walrix is splitting his cooldowns, though, not choosing to activate the Dark Soul on top of the Infernals, potentially to maximize his damage over a longer period of time rather than in a condensed moment. This could be a good strategy to run Minpoike out of mana. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, Walrix has just been getting completely controlled in the midfield, to put it lightly. Fullbringer Frost on Asgrath. Walrix in so much trouble. Unending Resolve has to be traded out. He's looking for fears, but it's literally being kick into kidney shot, into cyclone, into kick, into kidney shot, into cyclone. Here's another cyclone. Walrix, I hope you like it, because it just seems like right now, changed my mind. They've got all the control of the matchup. Walrix has to try to figure something out as soon as he can. Pride Kitty gets the polymorph reflected on him. Nicely done there by Nixie, and they're going after Minpoike. Maybe they can exploit the fact that Minpoike is playing very aggressive, but the Gladiator Safeguard will shut down that kill attempt from Diabolus. That was a good job, but Minpoike, anytime he has the Gladiator Safeguard up, he can afford to throw caution to the wind, as it will likely keep him up.
Yeah, Minpoike still the target. They're kind of ignoring Nixie. Nixie may be able to solo Minpoike. I've changed my mind. Don't do something about it. Fried Kitty blinks back to protect. Polymorphing up Nixie. Walrix stunned up by Acro. Minpoike jumping across midfield to help secure crowd control on Asgarath. Bringer Frost has landed. Walrix is going to counter pressure, activating Dark Soul while his healer is in crowd control. This can be a good way of playing a Destruction Warlock, because the other team knows where your damage is coming from. It's going to be Chaos Bolt. They're going to run away from you when you try and press Chaos Bolt. What is... Whoa! Huge swap onto Minpoike. What just happened to him? Nixie getting maximum uptime.
Both to set up, so make sure to look out for that in these next games. What can Acro and Nixie get done?
I'm really excited about this blind edition. There's been so many times where I feel like I've missed blinds, or healers trinket it so fast and I don't know exactly when it's up. So definitely a great addition to the spectator UI. We can track that from Nixie and Acro. We'll have to see how they set that up in this match.
Diabolus appear to just be experimenting with compositions to try and figure out what is going to be best suited for them, and maybe try and warm up Walrix for the summer finals on that Warlock. Walrix is a legendary player on the Warlock in particular, but it's just not really been his meta this year. Warlock's not really in fashion outside of the Mage Warlock Druid composition, which really only Cloud9 were having any success with. So that may have just been a Cloud9 thing, not necessarily a Destruction Warlock thing. Hopefully in the future, Walrix will find a composition, find an Essence build. We've seen other compositions like the Windwalker Death Knight suddenly defeating Rogue Mage Druid when they just change their essences and their talents up. So perhaps there is more experimenting to be done here, and Diabolus are doing that here in game number 2.
Yeah, Fried Kitty under a little bit of pressure right now. Trades out the Temporal Shield to bounce his hit points back up to full. Nixie on the Rogue over the Warrior is going to have a little bit more lockdown in this matchup. I'm not sure he's going to be able to make those same sort of swaps over on the Minpoike. Maybe on the smaller map he might be able to do so. If he can land a Shadow Step Kidney Shot into Minpoike, into a Bash from Asgrath, into a Mortal Coil Infernal Stun, maybe they could make a sort of an all-in attempt once again on Minpoike and really punish him. Minpoike so far has been playing very defensive in the matchup. You can see he's out of line of sight, doesn't want to create any windows of opportunity for Diabolus. Asgrath as well, he's positioned quite far away. You can see both Druids just playing it very cautious at this point, but the thing is, I feel like if both Druids are playing cautious and no one's really pushing in for crowd control, Change My Mind is going to slowly but surely pull ahead in the matchup.
Crowd control secured. Walrix is isolated. He's going to be calling in the Infernals right mid-attack. So this is a perfect timing for Walrix. He can use this stun to interrupt crowd control and now ramp up his damage while Change My Mind is most overextended. Beautiful timing on that Infernal. Lobbing out some Chaos Bolts onto Minpoike. One of those going to connect. Nixie not going to chase after that, though, and try and capitalize on it. A bit unfortunate. Minpoike going to recover. Now instead, Diabolus switching back to Fried Kitty, keeping their pressure on towards him. Mana even between the teams. I feel like it's been some time since we've seen the matchup of the Rogue Warlock Druid against the Rogue Mage Druid, and I'm interested to find out, but my anticipation, my sixth sense is telling me this game goes to 30% dampening. We're going to be seeing a dead Warlock.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of just how it plays out. The Assassination Rogue, their consistent damage just ends up being a lot. We can see Nixie now trading out his blind, and Minpoike will be sitting through that. And I love it. I love this addition to the Spectator UI. Full sap over on him in Minpoike. He trades out the Trinket. A little bit patient there. Wants to make sure that at least Diabolus traded out something. I mean, at this point, Nixie still has a Vendetta. There's still the Dark Soul available. Infernal's going to be rolling up for Walrus in about a minute. Maybe this is a chance they can go after Minpoike. If he's got no trinket, if they can get the Bark Skin, this is exactly what they want to do. They're actually just going all in. Minpoike could be in big trouble. Massive Chaos Bolt, and Minpoike falls. I don't know. I feel
they had to make a roster swap at the last second, like literally with 1.5 weeks until the regionals, and they brought in Nixie, who hadn't played Warrior the entire expansion. In 1.5 weeks, he got to the point where he was almost at Joe Fernandez level. You know, he took us to a Game 3 in our best of 3 series. Absolutely incredible, this player. And I talk to Alec often, and he always says he feels so lucky and so privileged to play with Nixie, because Nixie, literally, you know, last year when they stopped playing with Poike, they played with Nixie for a cup, and they actually almost won that cup. I think they came second in it. So this guy, absolutely legendary. Whatever class you put him on, he will perform. So far, he's been getting the better of Change My Mind, and they're looking to secure this series 3-0 with the Destruction Warlock into the Rogue Mage.
Yeah, Change My Mind just really hasn't had the perfect start to the day. Honestly, a couple of sloppy mistakes here, and this is kind of the problem with Minpoike a lot of the time. He'll go in, he'll get so much crowd control, he's actually looking for it right now, but sometimes he will unfortunately get one deeked on his way over. So Minpoike definitely gonna have to be a little bit careful. When he has the safeguard, when he has the Bark Skin, he can definitely go for those plays. Other than that, I want to see him just kind of stay back, play to his win condition. You can already see a nice low Cyclone. Minpoike gets bashed before by Asgaroth there. Asgaroth gating away to safety. Defensive blind from Nixie. I gotta say, Diabolus did a really good job deflecting that situation. Minpoike was definitely setting up there for a big kill opportunity. Now Warwick's casting out a Chaos Bolt. Of course, the blind was followed up by a Sap here onto Acro. They're gonna force out Fried Kitty's safeguard and that ice barrier there. So some defense here on the side of Fried Kitty, but more importantly, they didn't get into a situation where Asgaroth is getting into a full bash ring of frost with Warwick's already being on 30%, and that's because Asgaroth was just faster with the bash there. So nicely done by him, but Minpoike is gonna get it. But once again, Asgaroth preemptive Iron Bark there onto Warwick's is gonna make sure that he survives this, no problems.
Yeah, Asgaroth is definitely up there in the contention for top healers. I think the only reason we didn't really put him there was because he's only really been forced to play the Druid this year, whereas the other healers, we've seen them playing other healers across.
Oh, you mean like Chaz that you voted for?
Yeah, I voted for Chaz. I mean, I feel like Chaz is the best healer right now. I stand by my decision, but Asgaroth is definitely a part of that conversation. He deserves to be. Even little things there, like getting the better of the Mighty Bash War against Minpoike, you know, it mattered so much. Cost Changed My Mind 30 seconds on their setup, and now Asgaroth, he's min-maxing, he goes for a drink. The Earthstal's Vortex denied by Minpoike. He wasn't able to land it, so Asgaroth's going to get full mana here. Warwick dropping a little bit low, though hopefully Asgaroth, you know, he's going to have access to a lot of healing. Both the Swiftmen should be up. Minpoike is looking to punish it. Cheap Shot comes in. Cyclone, Ring of Frost, both being casted. The double cast, the triple cast, landing crowd control onto Asgaroth. Are they going to be able to punish that drink? Infernals comes in, the Dark Soul, the coils. Warwick trying to counter pressure.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Warwick just does so good right there. He spell-ups Fried Kitty, the Ring of Frost goes through, but he denies the follow-up Cyclone and the follow-up Sheep, dropping his Infernos onto Minpoike, making sure that he buys a little bit of time when that Ring of Frost is still active to deny the Cyclone, and then the double Mortal Coil on Fried Kitty and on Minpoike. You're gonna shut both of them down at the same time. Now with the pressure from the Infernals, they're actually gonna go after Acrolls, and they're doing a good job here, but Asgaroth was caught up in Cyclones right there, so Warwick's a little bit of trouble, gonna use his Gladiator's Medallion to get out of one of those stuns. Now he's looking to get that pressure rolling. That was his Dark Soul as well, and unfortunately for him, he gets counterspelled into a Cyclone. And the reason why Minpoike does the Cyclone at the back of that counterspell was because he was counterspelled on Chaos Bolt, which means he can't use any of his abilities, and one of his abilities is of course that Nether Ward, that spell reflect. So Minpoike doing a good job as well, capitalizing on that little window there.
I am a little scared for Minpoike though. He trinketed out of blind. Acro's dropping low. If Minpoike overextends here, I could definitely see Nixie going for a kill, but instead they're going to kidney him up, get counter pressure. This was the Vendetta push. They actually used it over onto Acro. I might have, if I was them, if I was Diabolus after the last couple of games, I think I would have definitely saved that Vendetta, go for an all-in on Minpoike, maybe land the kill that way. Instead they do go after Acro though, unable to find it. Beautiful plays there by Minpoike. He reads Nixie. Nixie did want to go for that swap. Preemptive Bear Form on the Kidney Shot. Doesn't even have to trade out the Bark Skin. Line of sighting Warwick, and he should be fine. So maybe he's just a little bit more prepared this game. You know, they've lost 2 games. Essentially throwaways from Change My Mind. They're still playing the Rogue Mage Druid though. You do get the feeling that if they just play it a little bit more safe, they should be able to take this one.
Yeah, absolutely. But so far, I gotta say, Diabolus, they have been playing it very, very well. And there is an opening onto Mimpoike. He doesn't have his trinket, so definitely could get punished later. But like you mentioned, the map also definitely helps change my mind to play it out defensively here. Nixie taking quite a bit of damage here. Fried Kitty going for the polymorph. Smoke bomb gets dropped by Acro. There's the flurry combo. Mimpoike looking for the DR bash there. Nicely done by him. And then he's gonna go for the low Cyclone. Actually, Cyclone's up Warwick to prevent him from shutting down that setup with those Mortal Coils. Unfortunately for him, Fried Kitty couldn't connect the Ring of Frost, and now Mimpoike caught up in a bash, followed up by a Cyclone. Fried Kitty was in a stun, so he could not shut that down with his counterspell. You know, Fried Kitty is on the back foot, but he does have his temporal shield. He's going to bounce him up to a reasonable amount of HP. I don't believe he has his safeguard just yet. Should have procced there if it was off cooldown. So nice pressure here from Diabolus as they keep on swinging.
Yeah, they're doing really good in this matchup, and I also want to note the nice little min-max from Nixie. His safeguard proc, but he actually used the Cloak of Shadows at the same time, which is a smart play, I think, because otherwise Fried Kitty's just going to Kleptomania all of the hots and the safeguard. Presumably he actually did it into the Cloak of Shadows, potentially. Very nice play from Nixie to protect his absorb, keep himself in the fight. Mana pretty even between the two teams. Actually, this matchup doesn't seem too bad for Diabolus, even without any mistakes really on the side of Change My Mind. Mana isn't looking great. Fried Kitty's not taking a really good exchange here. Seems like Warwick actually is doing better right now. Fried so low as Mimpoike sits through the blind into the sap. They might even have an opportunity for the kill. We see triple saps coming in. Asgraf's pushing forward. If they have stuns off that and cyclones, this could actually be game 3 in favor of Diabolus.
Mimpoike actually had to end up trinketing there as well, and Fried Kitty traded out his ice block, so a bit of an exposed target here on Change My Mind, but that mage is going to be very difficult to kill. I actually don't mind that Poike sat through that crown control there, but if they traded out the ice block a little bit sooner, I feel like he could have actually gotten away without using his trinket. Now they traded out an ice block and his trinket, which means that he is of course an exposed target. Warwick actually was using his unending resolve right there, so he was trying to get really aggressive with that cooldown, and when you activate the unending resolve this late into the game, it's definitely going to be an opening for Change My Mind onto Warwick. Acro now looking to punish with that kidney shot. Fried Kitty connecting with the Comet Storm, Frostbolts, Orbs, a lot of damage here over onto Warwick. Asgraf has his Innervate up, and he has his Iron Bark. He could be able to deflect it, but with Poike getting spell reflected right there by Warwick on his Cyclone, Asgraf is going to be able to hold on onto that Iron Bark. Nicely done. Asgraf now, I think, is also looking for a drink here.
Yeah, Asgraf has been doing such a good job in this game. He's sitting in the back line. He knows how to keep Warwick alive, though he does need to be very scared right now. We don't have much mana left. Dampening starting to stack up, and as you say, the Unending Resolve was used a little bit aggressively by Warwick, trying to secure the kill. Don't really blame him for it. I agree with Enrique. You've got to kind of find those opportunities as the Warlock. The deeper the game goes, the harder it will be for them. But Mimpoike hasn't been able to get drinks so far. He's trying to get aggressive in the situation. Good Mortal Coil combo from Warwick. Able to kind of subvert the pressure from Change My Mind, maybe try to turn something for himself, but Fried Kitty is playing so defensively. He recognizes that his healer's low on mana, and he has to be avoiding damage as well.
Ooh, smoke bomb attempt here over onto Warwick. Acro is going to be dropping that one. Mimpoike caught up in a silence right there. Fried Kitty now going for the Ring of Frost, since the counterspell was used by Warwick there, and Acro as well doing a good job shutting down the double Mortal Coil, but Warwick is going to be looking for it. He's going for Fierce. Mimpoike connects the Cyclone here. Defensive blind by Nixie onto Acro once again. And here's a big difference between the two rogues as well. Nixie actually playing that Night Elf with the Trinket, whereas Acro is playing the Human with the Relentless. Kind of an interesting stylistic difference there between the two, and I think Nixie can actually afford to play with this choice because Warwick is on his team. Warwick's, of course, the preferred target for the Rogue Mage Druid, so I like that Nixie is min-maxing knowing that.
Yeah, I think Nixie's being very smart. I actually, one definite weakness of this Relentless Human build that a lot of the rogues are running is that defensive blind is just such a potent tool. Whenever the rogue is getting aggressive, you can just blind him, especially if a sap's available off of that. It's really good. Mimpoike actually sat down for a good drink there. He was completely out of mana. That's a game changer for sure. I was starting to think that Diabolus was actually going to take this game 3, but Mimpoike, intelligent drink, one of the things he is very good at on the Druid, finding those opportunities. Full counterspell now into Warwick. Does seem like the Rogue Mage Druid is starting to take the lead here as Asgraf is struggling. Iron Bark, last line of defense. Vendetta coming up for Acro Laws in 20 20 seconds could be a big opening, though Warwick is just kind of dying through it. 30% dampening. The Affliction, or the Destruction Warlock, sorry, struggling so much in this situation.
Acro's actually cloaked the Mortal Coil of Warwick's right there, denying the heal, denying the crowd control. Chaos Bolt getting lobbed out at Mimpoike, but Nixie, unfortunately, is interfering. Now Warwick's using his Unending Resolve as soon as he came off cooldown, while Asgard is in that Cyclone, but he's in big trouble here. Smoke Bomb gets dropped here, I believe by Nixie, so it's a defensive Smoke Bomb right there. Asgard though in a full Ring of Frost, and surely that's the game.
Yeah, that will be game in favor of Change My Mind. Well executed, 31% dampening the assassination.
That might be what they need to win this series.
I am very curious to see if Walrix can pull it off. It would be an achievement unlocked if Diabolus can manage to win with the Warrior Warlock Druid against the Rogue Mage Druid. Change My Mind looking likely to go down to lower bracket. Even if they manage to pull this off, Diabolus can then go back to their mirror, assuming that Alec is here and they're not running this because they absolutely have to. We do see Asgarath the target of choice here for Change My Mind. They're getting very aggressive here in game number 4. Barkskin activated, however, may not be enough. Gladiator Safeguard, I don't believe that Asgarath is wearing it. Dips incredibly low, managing to barely survive as Acro continues the chase. Now cycloning Asgarath at low health. Counterattack by Walrix. Fried Kitty going to be utilizing the pillars underneath the bridge to block those Chaos Bolts. But Asgarath continues to be the target.
Yeah, I can't believe Asgard actually made it out alive there without using his trinket. That was really, really crazy stuff, but nicely done here by Diabolus, managing to hold on to that Gladiator medallion. We can see Acro still has his blind. Warwick's dropping a little bit low. I think Acro's going to go for a smoke bomb. Preemptive Iron Bark by Asgarath. Now you can see Acro, the way he's moving forward, he wants to go for a blind play, but since they got a Cyclone here onto Warwick's, they might actually go for the bash into full Ring of Frost here. Yeah, I think that might actually be what they're going to do here. I think Poike is moving a little bit forward aggressively. They get the Spelllock out of the way, so now they can set up for a full bash Ring of Frost with the next kidney shot, and that's going to be a little bit trouble for Warwick's.
Yeah, I think for Warwick's, he's kind of going for this really nice positioning, right, where wherever someone stands, if they're going to be attacking him, they're not near a pillar. He's just kind of got the center of the map. This is what we've seen all of the Warrior teams going for, though. To be honest, Change My Mind's done an excellent job so far, shutting down Nixie. This is a big swap over onto Mimpoike, though. The stun overlaps slightly with the Mortal Coil. Maybe not perfect execution from Diabolus, but without the damage, they still force the Barkskin, and that is an opening, potentially. You know, they do have the win condition. Even through Trinket, we've seen them kill Mimpoike. Nixie on the Warrior can be so dangerous.
No, really, he's been able to put out a lot of pressure in the match so far, and Nixie has been such an impressive player, going from the Rogue to the Warrior, just overall really well-rounded. I'll have to see what he can get done. On this map, I really like the Warlock. Walrix in this position is going to be able to get off damage and fears on multiple targets. There's not too many places for Mimpoike, Fried Kitty, and Acro to line of sight, unless they decide to push all the way on one side of the map. But even then, Walrix, with just slightly moving his position, should be able to get in line of fire. And that's why I like this map so much from Diabolus. Walrix now into a kidney shot, still getting controlled. Decent burst damage coming in from Change My Mind. If we look at mana, right now, Diabolus, they do have a lead, a slight lead. They're actually relatively even. I'll have to see if at any point these healers can sneak away for a drink.
Blade's Edge Arena going to be a bit of a cheeky map overall with the Z-axis, the upstairs and the downstairs of the bridge. If one healer sneaks away and tries to drink on the bottom while their team is fighting up top, it can be a little bit mismanaged there when you're trying to reconnect with your team. Asgarath is currently blinded. He is trying to sit through it. Acro is a bit reluctant to start engaging an attack, being so low on health, but now finally stunning up Walrix, but the crowd control is faded. Asgarath more than comfortably going to stabilize that situation with Iron Bark. With Iron Bark up now, Diabolus, I'm curious to see who they're going to be targeting. Walrix is secured a fear on Mimpoike, and Fried Kitty is the target. Activating Temporal Shield, but on very low health. So low, in fact, the Gladiator Safeguard is going to be procced regardless, so 2 defensives out of the way from Fried Kitty's bank. Asgarath looks like he's in cat form, drinking on the opposite side of the map, likely. Acro being counter-pressured. He's not going to be able to pursue after. I'm curious to see how much mana Asgrath ultimately did find. He's going to be totally reset on that resource. Minpoike, instead of going for a drink, is engaging crowd control, initiating bash into Ring of Frost. Good pressure on Walrix. He tries to counter-engage with the double Mortal Coil, healing himself and crowd controlling the 2 damage dealers, fearing Acro out of the Mortal Coil. War Banner placed down by Nixie, which reduces incoming crowd control, has stalled the crowd control of Change My Mind long enough for Asgrath to get a Cyclone of his own now on the Minpoike. Fried Kitty already down to half health. His Gladiator Safeguard procced earlier on. Temporal Shield potentially sharpened, bladed, not doing too much healing there. Still sub 50% health, but as Minpoike comes out of crowd control, it looks like it's more than easily going to recover. Walrix is trying to counter-engage with the Infernals on very low health. A very difficult decision to make as the Destruction Warlock as to when to use those Infernals, and Change My Mind, they're going to respect that cooldown, immediately retreating back downstairs.
Yeah, beautiful stuff here. And triple Shadow Fury into the Chaos Bolt here from Warwick. Going to deal a lot of damage here to Acro. He still has all of his defense. Fried Kitty as well getting chopped by Nixie here. And I actually think Change My Mind are setting up for a kidney shot over onto Nixie just because he's the only one that they can really hit. Acro decides against it. He's going to go back over onto Warwick. Warwick looking for more Chaos Bolts, but unfortunately he is being shut down. And Nixie now caught up in a full route into Cyclone combo there on the bottom half of the bridge. He's not going to have too much uptime, but now you see using his Escape Artist, and Fried Kitty actually with a pretty bad blink there, blinking into the pillar is going to allow Nixie all the uptime that he needs. Nixie is going to be on target for a while here. Sharpen Blade on the Temporal Shield as well. Warwick, he's in a pretty decent spot here in the middle, just trying to get Chaos Bolts out here. The kick of Acrolls though, he's still holding on to it for such a long period of time. Vendetta gets traded out. Of course, Ironbark in response to that. So right now, both teams kind of in a stalemate. Minpoike has a little bit of catch-up to do as he goes out and gets Chaos Bolted to the face. Acro now as well, getting feared up. And another Chaos Bolt, double Mortal Coil. Warwick's actually doing a decent job here, getting some of his lockdown out, getting some of his damage out. But Asgrath caught up in a full sap here. And that was not at the back of a blind, so nicely done here by Acro. But Minpoike behind the pillar now taking huge damage, Adrian.
I actually think it might have been the blind sap setup, but it didn't feel like it because Warwick just diffused the entire situation so perfectly. It was Mortal Coil into Fears, into Shadow Fury. It was such a good job from Warwick, really showing off why he is one of the best Destruction Warlocks in the world. Quite frankly, Warlock on any specialization. I mean, Change My Mind are being forced downstairs. Minpoike's mana's not doing good. Warwick is, I mean, he's just sitting fine. That was a full blind. They didn't have to use any defensive cooldowns. Asgraph's been able to drink, and this map choice is actually looking really good for the Destruction Warlock. The real telling factor is going to be as dampening starts to build up, you know, 30, 35%, like we saw in the last game, will Change My Mind just kind of win anyways, because we've seen that against the Destruction Warlocks. Their mastery gets less powerful. A lot of that damage reduction counts as self-healing, so with dampening, it gets reduced. Warwick could be an exposed weakness as dampening starts to pull, but at the same time, Nixie in battle stance was just soloing Minpoike, forces out the Barkskin, forces out the Safeguard in a 1v1. Incredible stuff from Nixie.
I'm just really curious to see if Diabolus can use this composition against a team like Method Black and actually find success. We'll have to see. Change My Mind, they're in a lot of trouble right now with Minpoike having no mana whatsoever. If they can continue to deny the drinks, this is looking really good. They're at 16% dampening, but they're running out of time. If Change My Mind can hold on another 15% dampening, it's looking good. They make a swap over on Asgrath. Is he going to be able to stay alive? We'll have to see. Diabolus on match point right now. If they can win this game, they'll be sending Change My Mind down into the lower bracket. Definitely have to see Minpoike sneaks away. He's in stealth right now. Can he recover his mana? That healer swap may have bought Change My Mind enough time, and it did. Minpoike recovers so much of his mana. He's at 80% now. What a massive swing.
Let's see if they can do it again here in the near future, although we're getting pretty close to that 30% mark for dampening, at which point Walrix is likely to fall over like a wet noodle. Change My Mind just need to hold it together a bit longer, and they've got more than enough mana, more than enough cooldowns to do so. Diabolus need an absolute miracle at this point. They need Minpoike to choke again, honestly, to be able to pull this off and get this win on the board. I think they need to be going back to their Rogue Mage Druid after this game, which I think is going to be a defeat. Right now, a couple Chaos Bolts lobbed out towards Acro. He's going to feint, reduce the damage of them. Although now walking into a bash. furthering the crowd control and potentially a pressure point. Not enough damage. Asgrath gets stunned up by Change My Mind, getting cheeky here, 24% dampening, trying to go after the healer. Having seen that, I believe Asgrath is not running the Gladiator safeguard, so if they do dip him low, he's not going to have that absorb shield to save himself. Spell lock on Fried Kitty to protect Asgrath. Asgrath repositioning back upstairs. Nixie trying to keep Acro away. Minpoike gets feared. This might be an opportunity for Diabolus. Minpoike overextending and getting caught in crowd control. Blade's Edge map there paying off for Diabolus to create some pressure, but ultimately not finding any cooldowns, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunate stuff there, but Asgrath was also denied there, caught up in a polymorph, and now we can see Acro had straight out his Cloak of Shadows, pre-fainted the Stormbolt though. Nixie's the one on the back foot here. Common Storm comes in, smoke bomb attempt, but the Gladiator safeguard is gonna deflect. Asgrath actually Ironbarked him, so this is still a pretty nice victory for Change My Mind. You might not think that the smoke bomb is a good trade against Ironbark, but when you hold on to cooldowns like Vendetta, you got Icy Bench rotating back up in 20 seconds, you can actually outright kill somebody 100 to 0. So definitely gonna be something that they could look to capitalize on. Actually gonna pull the trigger with that Vendetta onto Warwick's immediately, get him to 40%. Low Cyclone. Minpoike is looking for Asgrath, trying to find some bashes, but he's not gonna be able to find it. Instead, he's the one getting bashed. Warwick's trying to drop his Infernal now, doing a lot of damage here. Minpoike in big trouble here, Adrian.
Yeah, I'm really scared for you right now, Minpoike. Safeguard procs, he's running the Safeguard and the Battlemaster. Fried Kitty uses Ice Block to save and deny Nixie his kill. But he might still land it. The she was the he might just die. The Infernal's coming. Minpoike's on the run. He's in so much trouble. No one's hitting him right now. He's managed to line of sight. He's drinking at 20% health. Absolutely incredible. 35% dampening here. Warwick is almost falling over. They have one more opportunity. If Nixie can get another stun onto Minpoike, maybe they can find something, but Warwick is not long for this world.
Acro could be in trouble as well. He's got the Cloak of Shadows now up. Safeguard does proc. There's a chance here. Defensive blind onto Nixie to keep himself alive. Change My Mind. They managed to hold on. We're at 37% dampening, and this is not looking good for Walrix. They can figure something out. I mean, at this point, there's not that many openings. Acro has vanished, Cloak of Shadows, Minpoike's got his Bark Skin and Iron Bark. Who does Diabolus go after?
They're going after Fried Kitty. Bursting him very low, getting his Gladiator safeguard, Iron Bark from Minpoike. Diabolus need to get a kill very soon, otherwise Walrix is just going to be overwhelmed by the Assassination Rogue. Walrix deciding to jump off the bridge and avoid the Frozen Orb for now, and then coming back up once that cooldown is faded. Stun on Acro, big push by Nixie. Asgrath moving in to get the follow-up. Acro gets absolutely destroyed in midfield, and Diabolus have done it.
For the move tomorrow, we will of course be watching those guys play out tomorrow in the North American bracket, but here we've got one of the series that in the spring finals we would have said was just a legendary North America's #1 versus, Europe's #1 versus Europe's #2. Wildcard Gaming, though, they have been struggling a little bit. It's been Blizzo on the Arms Warrior who has been kind of giving them that semblance of hope, and potentially he'll be the guy to put them through to the summer finals.
Yeah, and a few weeks ago we were, discussing amongst ourselves what beats Rogue Mage Druid. It seemed like Rogue Mage Druid was just 100% unbeatable, but there have been compositions showing a little promise. The Windwalker Death Knight Restoration Shaman coming in from Method Orange over in North America. We just saw Rogue Lock Druid and Warrior Lock Druid, as well as the Rogue Mage Paladin. So there are some compositions, showing a little bit of promise here against the Rogue Mage Druid. This is one of them, the Warrior Mage Druid coming in from Wildcard Gaming. They have been doing quite a good job, but it seems like they have not been able to take down Method Black. They are, I guess, the mythic version of Rogue Mage Druid in the European scene. If they can beat Method Black, things will be looking good, and they have been looking better and better with this Warrior Mage Druid. It's just one of those matchups that I don't feel like is really in their favor right now. Looney's in so much trouble. What is he going to do? Kleptomania Spellsteal comes in. He trinkets at the last second, and that trinket was way too late. He was so far behind, he greeted it hard.
We saw at the very end of last week, Jumili obviously won the North American Cup, and he brought in the Arcane specialization. You guys have been talking about it a lot on the desk, whether the majors will be playing it, and I actually thought that would be proof to some of these other teams that Arcane is something in the meta, because Jumili essentially used it to defeat Method Orange. No one seems to have picked up just yet, though, in Europe. Let's see if any of the majors do later on in the lower bracket. So far, though, Moro and Raikou and Fried Kitty, all relying on Frost, which does seem to be the preferred pick here in the European region.
Ooh, Raikou getting bursted down. Nice counterspell secured there by Maro, but Method Black, they're looking to strike back. Actually, Maro sneaks in a polymorph on Chaz. He's forced to trinket out. Blizzo in a lot of trouble right now. Looney in a Ring of Frost. Is he going to trinket out? Blizzo greeting it off the back of that safeguard. Will be able to survive, but he's still low. Nice intimidating shout. Shuts down that offense. And now Looney finally has a moment to breathe and top off Blizzo.
All right, let's see if Wildcard Gaming can pull off their pocket pick. They have been able to defeat the Rogue Mage Druid in the past on Blades Edge Arena. We do often see them at least getting to Game 5 against even the best Rogue Mage Druids, but they just can't close out the series with this composition. This is a bit of a dangerous situation for Blizzo. His healer in crowd control, he's isolated, so feeling vulnerable. He's going to activate a defensive cooldown to die by the sword, but that's one that isn't going to be available again for 3 minutes, which means Method Black have a lot of time to get a kill on Blizzo.
Yeah, definitely. Blizzo could be in a lot of trouble here, but for now, I think he's going to be fine. Of course, Looney's going to have to make sure to keep him alive now. I like Method Black's strategy in this game. They're going for those double cross crowd controls like that. Maro, though, he is going to have to try to fake cast Raikou in this situation. Raikou holding onto his counterspell. Waz actually step kicks Maro on Arcane there, and that allows him to get that counterspell, which also allows them to get the CC chain that they need to win. But Looney...
They're just incompatible.
Yeah.
So
these guys are incredible. They're almost too compatible, I think.
Sometimes being compatible doesn't always mean being super happy fun times either. Sometimes it means being really critical of each other, because Wildcard Gaming are certainly a team that is not afraid to just poke each other in sensitive soft spots when they have their opinions. Blizzo is running that Serenity. I'm waiting to see when Zeepai activates his Apocalypse. If he summons a bunch of ghouls into the fight, then he is not running the Necromancer's Bargain. We would like to see the Necromancer's Bargain, because that way Raikou won't be able to reset his Frozen Orb. He's not. I think it's a big mistake not running that, because Raikou will be able to maximize his damage a lot more effectively. So Wildcard Gaming not stealing the entire formula from North America in their build.
Yeah, they're going to keep some of that formula, though, and it might be enough for them. Blizzo did activate his Serenity, but couldn't net himself any real cooldowns here on the side of Method Black. Mana so far looking pretty tied up between these Druids. Anti-Magic Zone is going to trade for Vendetta. That is a 2-minute cooldown for a 2-minute cooldown. So, you know, this is standard stuff. Looney now in a blind, going to be trinketing out of that one. Waz getting disarmed. So Blizzo actually wanted to disarm Waz to shut down his sap. Waz is going for a restuff, but Zeepai realizing that, shutting it down with the Chains of Ice as well. Chaz repositioning, Looney repositioning. Everybody is trying to kind of avoid each other here in this situation, and Raikou's just building up his damage. They're going to probably kidney shot Blizzo soon and look for the next attack. So we can expect Chaz as well to try to move forward for a bash, but Looney very quick with that Iron Bark. Now Chaz leaps in, actually gets gripped in. Big touch of death swap here.
Yeah, this is a big swap over onto Chaz. Raikou hasn't had to use any ice blocks, so they go for the play. Is it going to be enough? Maybe it will be. Trinket, though. Chaz reacts to the play. My choice for the best healer, using appropriate cooldowns to make sure he stays alive in this situation. The all-in from Wildcard Gaming.
Care way too much about being right.
You're out of control.
Maybe I'm out of control, but certainly the other person is out of control is Chaz, who is doing such a good job today. Okay, I'll stop now. But Method Black, once again, you know,
you're lucky it's not Runes of Lordaeron.
You literally sound like an infomercial at this point.
Infomercial for Chaz.
Would you like to buy some Chaz?
Would you like to buy some Chaz?
Stocks
are certainly up on Chaz recently. He's been doing a very good job on this Restoration Guild. No, but I mean, Method Black in general, right? They've had such a good year this year. Wildcard Gaming are up against it, and that was the touch of death in the Serenity. It was a big push. You're going to trade out cooldowns, but they do stay alive.
If Method ever makes a jersey with a Chaz on it, you're if you don't buy it,
I'll definitely buy it. Yeah.
You're not actually.
Wouldn't buy that.
We would like to see that. Method, if you're listening, make sure you make a Chaz t-shirt, please.
Ooh, nice attempt here over onto Blizzo. Looney gets caught into a cheap shot. Is there follow-up crowd control? Unfortunately not. Raikou gets denied with the paralysis from Blizzo. And Blizzo, although he's a little bit low right now, they do make an attempt over onto Chaz. A nice double leg sweep. Chaz in a lot of trouble. Trades out the Bark Skin and Iron Bark as well as his Trinket, but manages to hold on. Good defensive play there by Method Black, but I really like the fact that Wildcard Gaming went for that strategy. And now Chaz is going to have to play on the back foot just a little bit.
Yeah, beautiful stuff there. And Blizzo preemptive fortifying brew there on the kidney shot, and he's going to use his racial there as well, that dwarf racial, to clear off some of those bleeds with that vendetta. That was also the anti-magic zone for the vendetta. So standard trade here coming out from Zeepai and Waz, and Chats has to be very careful right now, because if he gets caught up in a stun, he can die. Here's the Serenity, big push, but Blizzo gets kidney shot. Doesn't have his trinket because he uses dwarf racial right now. You can tell Blizzo is smashing his keyboard, because if he had trinket there, I'm pretty sure that the best healer choice for Adrian would potentially go down there. Now, speaking of that, we see a nice full hibernate here onto Looney, literally getting caught sleeping here, and then of course a full cyclone to follow that up. Chas really getting the better end of him, but Waz taking a lot of damage here in this situation. Looney likewise baits out the evasion, Blizzo likewise baits out the evasion, and now deflects the situation with the Transcendence and the Ring of Peace, Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely looking pretty good for them in this situation. Full kidney shot over onto Blizzo. I'm just so impressed by Chaz. He's doing such a good job here as we see big damage coming in from Method Black. Blizzo doesn't actually have any defensive cooldowns left outside of that Gladiator's Medallion, though he does land a beautiful double stun. Really nice plays, holding it down on the Windwalker. Can they beat the Rogue Mage? That is the question for Wildcard Gaming. One of their compositions they've played since basically the start of the spring season. This Windwalker Death Knight saw them to so many victories in the spring season, in fact winning 3 cups against Method Black. Now though, Rogue Mage just seems to be on another level. It's so difficult to beat these top Rogue Mage teams. Method Black are in a dominating position in terms of just how the pressure's been, but Mana is actually starting to look toward Wildcard Gaming. Looney was able to sit down for a drink. He's looking pretty healthy to that regard, dampening though as it stacks up. We know that the Rogue Mage loves to see, 30-40%, and Wildcard haven't forced any ice blocks, which is what we were talking about the Serenity being potent to do.
Here it is, Serenity over on Raku. What can he get done? Temporal Shield, as well as the Ice Barrier might be a little bit enough time for him to hold on. Blizzo's still all over him. Temporal Shield doesn't even top him off. Chaz could be in a little trouble here. Does manage to find the Cyclone on Zeepai, but at this point, Blizzo just soloing Raikou. Finally, the Iron Bark lands, but still, like we kind of talked about, Mana is so far in favor of Wildcard Gaming. If they could just deny Chaz from drinking, that could easily be a win condition for Wildcard Gaming with this matchup.
This is the first time we see Method Black challenged with the North American strategy. Perhaps this is North America's year once again, ahead of the curve, ahead of the meta.
Perhaps.
And now EU is even copying them. Was the target, activating Feint to reduce the pressure on himself. Looney being targeted down by Method Black as they're feeling a bit desperate here. Their mana so low. Looney going to trade some cooldowns and be able to retreat back away. Waz trying to pursue but not able to get there. Instead switching back to Blizzo. Although the one significant disadvantage of Wildcard Gaming's composition is that Zeepai on Death Knight at 30-40% dampening ends up kind of just falling over. So if Method Black can hold on for, I believe, another 20% dampening, they still have that as a possible win condition.
Big touch of death here over onto Waz, but it's actually Blizzo on the back foot. Looney caught up in a sheep shot. Raikou gets denied on both the Polymorph and the Ring of Frost. He's going for it. Looney, of course, being my MVP healer choice, is going to be easily shape-shifting out of that one, but they do net themselves a trinket and a touch of karma for Waz's smoke bomb, so a pretty good exchange. Zeepai now building up a lot of pressure here onto Chaz. Could have been even more if he was running the Necromancer's bargain, but it could still be enough here for Wildcard Gaming to force out, a trinket or something. They are winning on mana right now, so it's not looking too bad for Wildcard Gaming. But like Sid mentioned, Zeepai on that DK is going to be a juicy target moving forward later on into the match.
Yeah, this is why the North American Resto Shaman, I really like it, because you do have a little bit more punch toward the end of dampening, whereas, I mean, the Druid, sure, he has great mana. Looney's been able to sit down for drinks. I question how much that's going to matter in the late game once we get to, 20, 30, 40% dampening. Zeepai is going to be a very easy kill for the Rogue Mage. They have to get a kill before that, and Raikou, he prides himself on holding those ice blocks. He does such a good job kiting, playing defensively. He's been one of the best mages at surviving in the European circuit so far this year, and once again here, no real pressure points. Once they had to use an Iron Bark, and we were kind of thinking maybe he'll have to block through it, but they still haven't forced one. We're 8 minutes into the game, 20% dampening, and this is where the Shaman, could potentially come online. Some purges on the Temporal Shield, the Safeguard, something like that can be the difference between no Ice Block and an Ice Block. It's an adaptation that Wildcard Gaming haven't been willing to make so far, and it's looking like Method Black unless they do end up losing the game on mana, should just be able to take the series.
Yeah, in terms of pressure so far, Method Black, they're looking good, but the one lead Wildcard has is mana. Like you mentioned, Blizzo looking to get aggressive right now with the Serenity, but Temporal Shield looking to just bounce Raikou back to full health. Blizzo unfortunately able to get too much done here, and I really feel like they need the extra little bit of offense with that Restoration Shaman to really make this strategy work, but it's still not over here for Wildcard Gaming. We're at 22% dampening. At a certain point, though, Method Black, they're going to be able to just target down Zeepai if they really want to. Eventually, the Death Knight in this composition becomes such an exposed weakness. Similar to the Destruction Warlock, eventually the consistent damage from the Assassination Rogue just overwhelms the target that kind of relies on self-healing. Dampening, obviously, removing that self-healing makes DKs a very exposed target.
All right, let's see if they can pull it off here. 5% away from the 30% dampening marker. Mana almost completely capped for Chaz. Pressure in favor of Wildcard Gaming. They've got a couple minutes on the clock to push Method Black over if they want to stay alive in the upper bracket. Otherwise, it's going to be 3-0'd, knocked down to the lower side to face up against Zizon. And if Zizon can manage to pull that off, then we may have a tiebreaker on our hands. Chaz gets swapped to Wildcard Gaming, going for the throat, trying to take him out. Chaz retreating away with that wild charge. Raikou trying to stand in between them, but I don't know if you really want to stand in between a Windwalker and a Death Knight. Now he's the target. Wildcard Gaming switching their attention, creating huge momentum. Grapple weapon on Waz, big swap to him. He's going to faint very low on health, relying on that Gladiator safeguard, as well as evasion. Finally, Zeepai now the target. Cycloned at low health. If Method Black can just hold on for a little bit longer, they should be able to take Zeepai down.
Blizzo getting polymorphed on his Serenity right there. Not what you want to be seeing here. And now Zeepai, like you mentioned, is going to be the target for Method Black moving forward towards the rest of the match, which means that Blizzo, he needs to start getting pressure on his own. He's doing a good job with it. Leg sweep, asphyxiate onto Chaz. That's going to be his bark skin. Zeepai, if he can connect, they could easily take Chaz down. Safeguard's going to proc. Chaz sprinting away with that dash, trying to make his way to the pillar. Gets gripped back, but he jumps away. Once again, Vortex is going to be used onto Zeepai. Zeepai trinketing out of that kidney shot, and now the pressure is going back over onto Raikou here. They're really doing a great job on the side of Wildcard Gaming, taxing Method Black's mana, but Raikou on that Frost Mage, very, very durable, should be easily able to deflect the situation back over onto Zeepai. Looney goes for the Hibernate, doesn't land it, goes for the Cyclone, presumably, actually can't find it, and an Ice Block is forced out from Raikou amidst of all of those things.
I actually would really like, I'm pretty sure Looney isn't running the Cyclone talent, but I think he should be. It's just, you're going to have to tank the counterspell and deep dampening anyways. You can't do enough healing with just instants, so why not just play Cyclone, try get those plays. Sometimes, again, maybe Purge isn't the difference maker, but Cyclone could be. He could have landed a 6-second crowd control there and had even more pressure for his team. But Wildcard Gaming, they're actually doing impressively well here. Serenity on Raikou, he only has one more Ice Block. Chaz has to trinket out, use Iron Bark. This is looking really good in terms of offense, but it might be too late. 40% dampening, Zeepai low. Looney doesn't have anything left aside from a little bit of mana. Cheap shot, Polymorph connects, Chaz pushes in. The entire team dogpiling on top of Wildcard Gaming. It's going to be a tough ask as the Touch of Death is the last win condition. Maybe it takes for a lot on Raikou. He ice blocks it, smart play. Should be able to kill Zeepai momentarily here. They have very little defensives left.
Yeah, Chaz is not out of the woods entirely here, trading Bark Skin. No defense for him, no defense for Raikou.
Raikou could easily die.
No defense for Zeepai, who's going to fall first.
I think it could be Raikou. Look at him. He's not getting away. Finally manages to sneak away. Zeepai still low, but Looney's got the mana to work with. Chaz really struggling in this situation. Asphyxiate Sun comes in. All three members of Method Black down to 20% health.
No way.
And Chaz gets taken down. Wildcard Gaming with the Windwalker Death Knight.
This is not a case of LFR or Time Walking. This is Method Black, one of the best rogue mages in the entire world on the globe. And Wildcard Gaming, if they could beat them 3-0, that would be pretty incredible. Of course, the reverse sweep with this Windwalker Death Knight.
I mean, we'll see what they can get done. Wildcard Gaming, I feel like it's really important in this matchup that Looney can maintain a mana lead, but this large map makes it much more difficult for Zeepai to actually shut down all the drink attempts from Chaz. So we're going to have to see really good consistent pressure coming in from Blizzo and Zeepai, not allowing Chaz enough time to actually sneak away and drink, but that's a tall order on this large map. Raikou, obviously a phenomenal mage, going to be able to kite away quite a bit, especially with the backup of Waz and Chaz. So it's a tall order for Wildcard Gaming. We'll have to see if they can get it done. Only time will tell.
Blizzo getting a double stun here. Wildcard Gaming focusing on defense with Looney positioned back behind the pillar, and Blizzo and Zeepai playing interference, trying to prevent Raikou from pushing forward, but Raikou is continuing to push in. Looney's going to reposition. realizing that Raikou is now overextended, Looney wants to be on the opposite side, but they've got Looney stuck between Chaz and Raikou. If Chaz decides to move in on the left, they'll have Looney cornered. I'm curious to see if Method Black focus on just the dampening strategy, where they're going to use Blizzard like this with the Frozen Orb, avoid damage, extend the game to dampening, kill the Death Knights, and try to maintain their mana, or if they're going to try and go for crowd control setups and close the game faster on Blizzo. It's yet to be seen. So far, they're playing sort of in midfield, and it hasn't been 100% decided on their strategies just yet. So Looney is preparing for that attack if it does occur.
Yep, and we can see now a lot of pressure over onto Raikou. Looney now getting caught up in a kidney shot. Method Black looking to switch things up here. Icy Veins committed. No Vendetta from Waz though. And they're trying to bait out as many cooldowns as possible here. There is the Bark Skin. No trinket available for Looney. Waz holding onto the Vendetta means that in the next push, Looney could easily fall over. Also, that was not Chaz's bash. So Method Black are setting up for, you know, a one-shot here potentially onto Looney. But Zipai has that anti-magic zone, so I really don't think that this is going to work out for them too much. I think Waz should have just traded the Vendetta there as well, perhaps. Now he's going to be looking to do exactly that, but I expect Zipai to drop his zone. There it is, and Looney is going to be able to survive this attack now as a result of that. And Blizzo now doing a lot of damage here in this bash with the Serenity Fist of Fury coming in here. Waz doesn't have his feint, so he's going to be trading out the evasion. Vendetta is still on Looney for a couple of more seconds, so Waz trying to really min-max that here. Blizzo getting polymorphed up behind the pillar. Zipai caught up in a bash, and this strategy adaptation is basically one where Chaz won't have to go into the middle of the team like that. Instead, he's going to stay on the outskirts and just try to crowd control the Death Knight, which is a much less risky play for him to make. Zipai could grip him into a stun. Definitely could be the line of play they're looking for, but for now, Looney's just running around the pillar, and both Druids are kind of tight on mana.
Yeah, I really hope that Wildcard Gaming has closely analyzed that series we saw last weekend between Cloud9 and Method Orange, because of course Snuts made the very same adaptation after losing a couple of games, started attacking Sea-Doo on the Shaman, and then Trill kind of made the mistake of going back, trying to solo kill Snuts. Wasn't really happening. He was having to use his Serenity's Touch of Death on him. Of course, Rogues have fantastic answers for that with things like Feint, the Vanish for the Touch of Death. So it's not an ideal situation to be in. Blizzo needs to be bouncing back and forth. If he spends too much time on Waz, then I think Method Black will have no problem, especially on this map, making it through to those deep dampening stages where they can land a kill. Wildcard still need to be the aggressors. They still need to force the issue here, even if Chaz is in a little bit of trouble in some situations now. Both the healers kind of sitting down, resetting a little bit in the far distance, going for mana resets. The distract on Looney from Waz, nicely played though. I think he did have enough time in stealth that he should have a decent sized mana bar. Both healers pretty even as we do approach dampening here. Blizzo trying to get aggressive on Chaz with the Touch of Death and Serenity, though to very little avail.
It's just so difficult as that Windwalker Monk. You're essentially getting bullied by Raikou on the Frost Mage, spamming out polymorphs. He's trying to interrupt your mobility, so if you go for a Flying Serpent Kick, he can Ice Nova you, he can Pet Nova you. It's difficult for the Windwalker Monk, especially with a mage like Raikou, who's on point with denying that mobility to go after Chaz, but he gets gripped into a double leg sweep. Who are they going after? Looks like Blizzo's going to be going after Chaz. Zipai's going to be sticking on Raikou. A bit of a communicated effort there by Wildcard Gaming, and it really doesn't bank them too much. Chaz did trade out his Bark Skin to be safe, but he's still got his Trinket to rotate through. He still has his Iron Bark coming back up, and Waz in the meantime is actually using his Vendetta. He's trying to get really aggressive here on the Blizzo, who does not have a Touch of Karma.
All right, let's see if Method Black can close it out. Smoke Bomb available. Blizzo's going to need to be careful. How is he going to avoid this next attack from Method Black? As they're waiting to pull the trigger. Looney's trying to stop Chaz from drinking. Looney walks into a bash. Perfect opportunity to kill Blizzo, but he's already anticipated it. He's rolled next to Looney, and he is going to be hiding there, waiting for his healer to get out of crowd control. Raikou now getting owned by Zipai. Big heal comes in from Chaz, though, and Raikou will be A-OK. Kidney shot on Blizzo. Unfortunately, no Smoke Bomb comboed with that. May have been a good opportunity, but now Blizzo will have Gladiator's Medallion, which allows him to escape from the Smoke Bomb with his Transcendence. He just needs to make sure that he stays in range of it.
Yeah, it's very important, of course, as a Windwalker to be in range of that Transcendence. We're going to see Raikou actually shutting down Looney's drink attempt, and that's another thing about this matchup. On this map, both Druids can go for drinks. The problem for Wildcard Gaming is the longer the game goes on, the more Z-Pi becomes a liability. But Waz actually taking quite a bit of damage here, being a little bit greedy with that evasion, relying on Chaz to keep him alive. Now we're going to see another attack launched here over onto Raikou. That was also his Icy Vein, so they didn't get too much down with that. Touch of Death secured here. Raikou could be in a little bit of trouble. He still has his safeguard, I believe, but Chaz doing a really good job here, just keeping his mage alive, tanking this Windwalker DK essentially, and a kidney shot now onto Blizzo. Polymorph secured onto Z-Pi, gets dispelled by Looney, and Method Black, they're essentially playing the matchup the way Cloud9 does, where they're not even pushing in for the big crowd controls, they're just kind of staying alive and making sure that they're rotating the Blizzard, the Frozen Orb on CD, but Raikou taking quite a beating still, might actually be forced to use his Ice Block.
Yeah, I mean, it's not looking as good as I thought it might. This is very similar to the last game where, you know, Raikou has both his ice blocks as dampening is starting to build up, but in the same vein, I don't know, like Chaz's mana isn't fantastic. He's around about the same as Looney. Blizzo's done a good job just rotating through his defensive cooldowns. Z-Pi assisting him with the anti-magic zone right now. And as those Serenities start to get connections, they're doing a really good job having uptime on Raikou. This is the Iron Bark, this is the Innovate, a lot of healing coming in. But despite that, so much damage from the Serenity. Kidney Shot is the last thing that will shut Blizzo down. The defense has been very good from Method Black, but will it be enough? You know, when we add another 10-20% healing reduction to these teams, you really get the feeling that Z-Pi isn't the only one that's on a timer.
I mean, it is true. It's difficult for both of these healers as dampening gets higher and higher. And that's kind of why I like the Restoration Shaman pick, is you have really powerful defensive cooldowns you can rotate through later on in the game, like the Spearling Totem, like the Ascendance. Those are basically ways for, you know, the Death Knight to survive in those really, really deep dampening stages. But Wildcard Gaming with the Restoration Druid did manage to pull out a victory, which was quite surprising to me in that last game. If they can do it again, that would be quite the statement. Then maybe they found a solid answer into the Rogue Mage Druid. Right now, Raikou's taking quite a bit of burst. Blizzo has Serenity rolling up in around 20 seconds. If they can get an Ice Block right now, this is going to be big for Wildcard Gaming. Chaz gets caught into a bash, trades out the Iron Bark. That should be enough for Raikou to survive, but at 20% dampening, Sid, this is going to start becoming a nightmare really quick for both these Druids.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit unpredictable. We've seen Wildcard Gaming stealing North America's strategies, but then putting a European twist on it, and this is something that Method Black have yet to face, and perhaps it's the answer. It could be quite possible that Wildcard Gaming have found the answer, at least for now. This could be their opportunity to get a huge amount of points if they can win the entire tournament off the back of this Windwalker Death Knight. Big touch of death. Hits Raikou. Bit of a disrespect on his part, not trading any defense there. Almost going down. He's still being pressured by Blizzo. Z-Pi would love to connect, but he's down at 50% health with Waz hammering at him. He's having a difficult time connecting. Chaz has Iron Bark available, although now stunned up. Temporal Shield rolling for Raikou. He's going to be absorbing a huge amount of damage here, but Wildcard Gaming don't care about Raikou. They've switched their attention. They're going after Chaz, and I'm certainly hoping that he can prove Adrian and I's pick correct.
Well, it would take a lot of pressure to do just that, but we're reaching up to that critical mass point soon. Z-Pi starting to take a lot of damage here on this Death Knight. Frozen Orb gets connected. Raikou, he is in a little bit of trouble himself, though. Blizzard rolls in. There's the Fist of Fury. Raikou blinks away. Z-Pi grips him back in, which means he won't have that grip now for Chaz. Chaz still doing a decent job with his mana. Looney gets spell locked. A very rare thing to happen to the best healer in Europe. Full kidney shot secured onto Z-Pi. Might have to trade out his anti-magic zone, but Raz, it doesn't have Vendetta. It's not going to line up perfectly here, and Looney is going lower and lower on that mana bar.
Yeah, it's not just about the best healers in Europe. We've got Blizzo and Waz, some of the people we had as the best DPS, and Raikou. These were actually all the picks, aside from Kara, for the best DPS. But Waz is a little bit low here. Evasion expires, disarm. Z-Pi also in a little bit of trouble. We're at that kind of point where the damage is really starting to add up. 31% healing reduction for both of these teams to contend with. Waz uses his Banish, kind of stabilizing a little bit here as we got a little calm. Both healers sitting in stealth. Who's going to make the first move? Looney, lower mana. Chaz, I think equally so. Cheap shot from Waz. He's able to get the re-stealth. I think he might have stayed in Vanish for a long time there. He wanted some time for the Hots to heal up. Chaz is drinking behind the pillow. Blizzard denies, but he did manage to get a lot. 34% healing reduction production. Smoke Bomb comes in, and Method Black are really looking in a good position here. Still have both ice blocks. Zeepai dropping low. Surely they're going to win this one.
It's such a good play by Waz. He managed to shut down the drink from Looney, buying Chaz enough time, and Rocky basically solo pressuring down Zeepai in that situation. But Touch of Death is rolling on Waz. He's in so much trouble. Iron Bark from Chaz might be able to keep him alive, but the damage is still rolling. This isn't even Serenity. It's almost back up. Waz has got the feint. He needs to trade it out. He's kiting. He's running. He's trying to survive. Bash on Chaz. Nicely done by Looney. Chaz has his trinket available, but if he gets caught in any more crowd control, Waz could easily fall. Serenity right now rolling for Blizzo. This damage is overwhelming at 38% dampening. Wildcard Gaming, they're looking to tie up the series. Unbelievable. We really didn't expect them to.
Death Knight, the Serenity build is looking like it's doing work here.
I mean, it's looking good. It's that extra punch that it seems like Wildcard Gaming really needed to take down Method Black. In the late game, they just didn't have the damage with Storm, Earth, and Fire and Whirling Dragon Punch, but with this talent change, that adaptation is enough to finally start putting points on the board against Method Black with this composition.
All right, let's see if they can keep them on their toes for Game 5, or perhaps Method Black have figured them out. I feel like this has happened in a lot of cups previously as well, where Method Black might lose in the upper bracket, and then they come back, they rematch, and they 4-0 them in the grand final. So Method Black, they usually are caught off guard when a new composition is thrown at them or a new strategy is thrown at them initially, but they're usually able to adapt to it, and it's definitely Chaz who's going to be a main part of that adaptation, certainly. Here on Ashamane's Fall, they've set themselves up well, but Tolvaron was even better in terms of map for their strategy. Can Method Black hold it together long enough to make it to those deep stages of dampening to kill Zeepai?
Yeah, we're going to find that out. But right now, Wildcard Gaming, they just want to go to Raikou, try to shut down some of those setups, try to make sure that they're getting a lot of pressure. And Waz actually getting swapped to there a little bit as Raikou activated his Tempora shield on that Serenity. But Blizzo doing a good job here, forcing out the evasion. There's the smoke when Blizzo rolls out of it. Nicely done. Now a swap over onto Chaz, but unfortunately, no Touch of Death was able to be committed in that push. But a lot of pressure here from Wildcard Gaming, honestly. Preemptive Fortifying Brew on the kidney shot of Waz. Blizzo showing why he is one of the best DPSers in Europe, of course. And then, likewise, they got the Bark Skin from Chaz there with that push. They still have Touch of Death to force out Chaz's Trinket with if they want to. And they got Waz's Evasion and Vanish. So if they can bait Waz into using his feint and then get a clean Touch of Death, there's the feint, but that was with the Fist of Fury, so probably not going to have that opportunity for much longer, but there is a nice kill opportunity here for Wildcard Gaming onto Waz if they can get some pressure and force out that Iron Bark.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be difficult since there's no dampening just yet. Obviously, Chaz has his trinket available. It would have to be an absolutely brilliant setup. They are going for it on Chaz instead. He did use his trinket. Didn't have the bark skin. It's a big push. Actually beautiful by Zeepai. He uses the pet route on the wild charge from Chaz. Really nice min-maxing on that Death Knight, though, without any dampening. The Druid's heal's just going to be too powerful. Abomination, maybe he can't kite away. Nice Ursul's Vortex. Chaz should be able to escape. That was the big offensive push from Wildcard Gaming. Once again, does create some pressure, does force some mana out, but Method Black survived.
Yeah, and Looney's mana still doing well. Actually, Chaz and Looney even on mana at this point. We need to see Method Black try to deny Looney as much as they can. Chaz right now trying to get out of combat, does manage to find the Shadow Meld. Yeah, but it looks like Zeepai and Blizzo, they can't get there. Looney's now behind on mana. This is exactly the kind of situation Method Black have to set up. Essentially every single Shadow Meld Chaz gets, he needs to be able to drink. If they can deny Zeepai and Blizzo from getting there, that's the only opportunity Chaz really has, because he does have a ghoul on him the entire game. Shadow Meld is his only way to reset his mana, and if he can consistently do that in the match, and maybe they can deny Looney, they could get a mana lead. However, Looney manages to escape, get out of combat, drink the full, and now actually has a lead over Method Black, over Chaz. And these are the things that really matter as, you know, dampening kicks in and you start getting a little bit later on in dampening, as it seems like it is kind of a requirement in this matchup, barring a huge mistake. Those are right now, Serenity and Touch of Death going to be rolling up shortly, and that's going to be a huge hit Wildcard Gaming have available.
Yeah, when both teams make no mistakes in a matchup like this, it's going to go on for quite some time. Although Method Black looking to try and close it out, targeting down Blizzo. They do manage to at least pull his Touch of Karma, an important defensive cooldown, alongside the Gladiator Safeguard. But now Wildcard Gaming immediately counterattack, going after Chaz. Big Fist of Fury flying in. They get the Barkskin and the Iron Bark. A bit of an overlap here, but they're continuing to punch through. Chaz narrowly escaping that situation. Quite a close call indeed, Zika.
Yeah, and I think Blizzo actually has his Serenity. He was just rotating back up right before they did that swap. So if they can connect onto Chaz with, you know, a Death Grip combo, actually they are gonna just completely ignore that line of play and just go for the Serenity onto Raikou. That is what we like to call the rotational Serenity right there. Try to force out as much mana as possible. And, you know, while that Iron Bark is down, you want to get as much work as possible. So I kind of like that actually coming out of Blizzo. Nicely done. He still has his Touch of Death as well if he wants to go after a big hit, and now he's doing it over onto Waz. Big Touch of Death go here, Adrian.
Yeah, big setup. Potentially, though, Raikou shuts it down. Great crowd control from the mage. He's done such a good job just sheeping up those cooldowns reliably. The Touch of Death is going to be completely mitigated. Iron Bark from Chaz as well, you know. Why not be safe in this situation? There's no dampening just yet, so he's not going to have too much issue healing through the damage outside of these major cooldowns. I think it's a respectable trade. Well played by Method Black, and, you know, they're playing for that late game. In the last couple of games, it hasn't been enough, though. So this is still pretty interesting here. In the past, we'd be kind of like, well, the Rogue Mage will win if they can just stay alive. I'm not actually so sure that's true here. Looney's been doing such a good job on the Resto Druid, keeping Zeepai going. Honestly, he's not even been close to dying at 40% dampening in most of the games, so if they can keep that going, they will get a lot of pressure. Chaz's mana is much better in this game than it was in the others, though. He's at 80% as we approach dampening. Previously, he was at 60. The first game, he was at 40. So this is still looking pretty good for Method Black. I do like these swaps from Wildcard Gaming to him, though, just to kind of force the issue, make sure he doesn't get too offensive.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Blizzo now Serenity rolling, trying to get some damage on Raikou. Chaz does have the Iron Bark, but not even going to trade it out. Actually, Blizzo going after Waz in this situation. Zeepai gets caught into a Cyclone. Method Black slowing down a lot of the offense Wildcard Gaming has available at this point in the game. 6 minutes in, 7% dampening. Blizzo getting swapped to Iron Bark coming in from Looney to keep him alive. Has a beautiful Iron Bark and anti-magic zone. A lot of damage available there for Method Black. Vendetta still rolling. Blizzo could be in trouble. If he has to trade out his Karma, it could be disastrous.
See if Method Black can get that here with the Vendetta. Not looking likely. Raikou is able to survive the attack by activating Temporal. He's not even going to get scratched there. Method Black focusing their attention on crowd controlling Zeepai. They want to make sure that they can extend Chaz's mana as long as possible, so that deeper in dampening they can switch targets. Blizzo being blasted. He's going to Transcendence away, back beside Looney and recover. Innervate active from Looney, so all of his healing is free currently, and that's great timing as there was no crowd control available either for it. Looney got a lot of value out of that Innervate, but now Chaz equally so, getting a lot of value. Mana not going to be too much of a lead for either side at the end of that. Good Innervate usage from both sides. 7 minutes in now at this point. We would like to see Ice Block start to be forced. Wildcard Gaming, they've killed pretty much every target except Chaz yet in the matchup, and I'm wondering if they're going to be going after him in this game specifically. They have been targeting him already in the past, and now they've got his Barkskin and Iron Bark out of the way. They switch back to Waz. They get evasion immediately. This is only Serenity and not Touch of Death. If Blizzo can stay alive, he's going to have a big opportunity, but they whiff the diminishing return. A 1 second leg sweep on Chaz is not nearly that threatening.
Yep, kill opportunity lost. Well, not even a kill opportunity necessarily. If Chaz respected that and used his trinket, that surely would have been, you know, a situation where he could still survive. But unfortunately for them, they waste the leg sweep. They, of course, allow Chaz to hold on to a lot of his mana. And, of course, you know, you don't want to be DRing your leg sweep like that. So a little bit of a mistake there from Blizzo, but still, Wildcard Gaming looking good in this situation. Chaz, I do believe, is going for a drink right now. I'm not entirely sure. It looks like he is gonna go ahead and Cyclone Zeepai. Zeepai, though, with the anti-magic shell, is gonna make sure to avoid that one. Looney now actually going for the drink here. Chaz looking to stop it with that Vortex, actually gonna hold on to that. Raikou instead blinking in. This is actually kind of good for Wildcard Gaming now. You can see Zeepai and Blizzo gonna pile over onto Raikou. Nice bash. This could be a lot of trouble for Raikou, but but preemptive temporal shield should keep him alive for now. Nicely done there by Raikou, but he can't afford to blink in like that a lot of the time because they're just going to get so much uptime, which is going to burn a lot of mana. Swap over onto Chaz, deflected with the Bark skin right there. That was the Serenity from Blizzo, so a 1-for-1 exchange. But look at Chaz's mana. If Looney does a good job keeping him alive, keeping him from drinking and keeping his team alive, Wildcard Gaming could just win this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking really good for them. I actually really, one of the big adaptations that we've seen more, he actually tanks the Hibernate to avoid the sheep. I assume Raikou was off camera casting a sheep as well. I was going to say that would be a throwaway otherwise. That is going to be full CC coming out onto Looney. The DR Sap, potentially Blizzo in trouble. They're still going after Blizzo in the deep stages of dampening. A risky strategy, but they haven't been able to kill Zeepai. Zeepai's been doing such a good job. Looney is struggling to keep Blizzo alive. He's going to be forced away, retreating. Chaz potentially looking for a drink here. You can see he's in the off-field, but the pet from Zeepai is chasing. Really nice pet management from Zeepai, understanding how important it is, how crucial that Chaz is unable to drink. We're at 30% dampening. Chaz with no mana left. The advantage somewhat toward Wildcard Gaming here.
Yeah, things are looking good for Wildcard Gaming. Wazzy trades out the evasion. There's no cloak, no vanish, no evasion now. If they can survive, there's an all-in. There's Touch of Death, there's Serenity. Chaz, he really doesn't have much mana left. If Looney can push in, get a Bash Cyclone with one setup on Waz, that's game over. Wildcard Gaming, they're at the finish line. They might be able to reverse sweep Method Black. And it looks like Chaz is going to get gripped in. Serenity rolling right now for Blizzo. He's putting out massive damage. Chaz manages to leap away. Pretty scot-free in that situation. I really think they should have gone after Waz instead.
Oh, now Blizzo a target. Is their valiant effort to take down the Rogue Mage Druid just going to be knocked away by Method Black? Blizzo transcendencing away, recovering along with Looney, but Chaz sees this as an opportunity to drink. He's casting Entangling Roots on the Ghoul of Zeepai, and then he's going to reposition away from it likely and try to drink. Moving very far in the back line. Wildcard Gaming need to stop this. Looney is looking to be on point for that. He charges across center field. Waz is taking too much damage. Chaz has to come back. He didn't get barely any mana from that exchange. He does get gripped on his Cyclone, though. Beautiful interrupt by Zeepai. Waz going to be the target here. Looney bashes up Chaz. He's got no way to get out. No defense for some time. 9 seconds away. Wildcard Gaming may just outright kill Waz. Zeepai with beautiful interrupts here towards the end of the match. Waz shadow steps back. Blizzo in pursuit. Gets Ursul's Vortex away into a polymorph. Raikou is desperate to protect Waz as long as possible, but now Method Black looks to try and kill Zeepai faster. Zeepai down at 30%. Lichborn active, reducing a significant amount of damage onto himself, absorbing huge hits from Raikou. Chaz sees some opportunity amidst all of the chaos and the pressure that Wildcard Gaming are facing. Chaz sees an opportunity. He drinks and he gets a huge amount of mana, perhaps enough to win the game.
Yeah, so much importance in that drink, and his Everrising Tide is also going to proc there, but Waz, no defense for another 10 seconds. Smokebone gets dropped. Zeepai in a lot of trouble here. He could just potentially go down, and he will. Method Black take the game, but Wild
Finals.
Yeah, they've been a really consistent team throughout the year, and you know, we expect to see them at summer finals. Jokes aside, they just haven't been able to perform that well in the Rogue Mage Druid mirrors. However, Battle for RMD, playing that DK Warrior, not the easiest matchup here to go up against RMD with.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be a difficult uphill battle. Like we've kind of seen from Rogue Mage Druid in the past, they can play sort of the attrition playstyle where Fried Kitty, Minpoike, they sit back, they kind of just relax, enjoy the ride until later on in dampening, and then they can start taking down Rusty, take down Zray. We'll have to see what Rusty and Zray do. They really got to push the pace here in this matchup. Polymorph secured onto Rusty, kidney shot on Rivender, and it's looked like they're going in for an all-in healer train down.
All right, let's see if Change Your Mind can close it out. Zray and Rusty are certainly going to be doing a lot of damage while they are left open, and perhaps leaving the Zray train open is not a good idea. They're trying to shred up Fried Kitty. Temporal Shield absorbing all that damage, though. Healing it back up quite easily. Iron Bar committed now as well. Zray going for a fear, hitting 2 members of the team have changed my mind, isolating Fried Kitty for them to further pursue for an ice block. This is the perfect time to try and get one. There's no Iron Bark or Temporal. They've got a big opening. Zray trying to stay on target, and Minpoike powering through, using Innervate to Cyclone Rusties. Change My Mind still trying to kill Rivender at this point, but Fried Kitty is certainly feeling the pain for the exchange. Can Fried Kitty stay in and aggressive long enough to close it out? He's got 6 seconds away from Rivender's Iron Bark. Minpoike deciding, all right, let's give that up. Cyclone Rivender. Defensive blind on Zray by Acro as Fried Kitty took a huge hit. and that's a bit surprising. Now they will not have that blind as a win condition later on.
Yeah, but they used it to set up a perfect kidney shot setup over onto Rewinder, and they got his trinket. Now Poike taking a lot of damage here. DR Stormbolt, Poike trinketing after that Stormbolt, and when he already had that safeguard, we're seeing a little bit of, I'm not sure what's going on with Poike today, but he's definitely been making some I don't want to call him out too hard, but definitely a little bit questionable move right there compared to what we expect of him. Now, Fried Kitty here dropping his Frozen Orb. Gonna see a lot of damage here onto Rewinder. As soon as he leaves that bear form, could get kidney shot, but Acro gets polymorphed up there actually by a stolen polymorph. Nicely done by the DK. I mean, Poike now, that's the kind of play that we expect to see right there. Nice wild charge on the Death Grip. He's gonna make sure that he has a very nice defensive positioning now that all of his defense is out. And of course, that was the Dark Sim. I'm not sure what he stole with that, but Fried Kitty might have the block here.
Oh, that was a thread of health at the very end. 1%. Fried Kitty gets into that ice block immunity cooldown. Poike with no trinket though. And, I mean, I was thinking there's a very good chance it's just a 3-0 in favor. Changed my mind. Suddenly, I'm a bit of a believer in Dre. When it comes to these all-aggressive games, he's very, very potent on the Arms Warrior. He loves to get aggressive with the Warrior and the Death Knight. This and the kind of Turbo Cleaver is two meta compositions, the ones he loves to play. And he's doing really well here. Fried Kitty in a bit of trouble. Only has one ice block left. Poike, whenever... This is something we talk about with the Cleaves a lot on the desk, actually. The Druids, some people are scared to punish them, I feel like. Dre and Rusty haven't been so far. They've almost taken the kill, but their Druid might be the one that dies here. Rallying cry at the last second. Is it going to be enough?
It's not looking likely here. Zray trying to hold out with the intimidating shout, but the damage over time effects of Acro going...
Battle back against RMD.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to have to. They had some openings in the last game, and Poike almost got caught and taken down really quickly. Fried Kitty ended up getting his ice block off at 1% health, so it was a close call in the game. Definitely with just a little bit more damage could have gone in favor of Battle for RMD. Look at positioning early on. It looks like Battle for RMD, they are going to be sitting in this room, but we have seen them. I think it was who are they playing against where they sat back for a long period of time, then eventually just got bored and went in. This positioning battle often results in a team just saying, whatever, let's just go in, let's start the game. But you can't really blame the teams for wanting to take advantage of ideal positioning. Of course, Fried Kitty doesn't want to be gripped into that room. Then Poike doesn't want to be gripped into that room. It could be really devastating in such a small area to battle against a Warrior Death Knight. Whereas in the really large area, it's not that fun to play against the Frost Mage Restoration Druid. So you really can't blame both of these teams for kind of setting up ideal positioning for themselves.
A bit surprised to not see Battle for RMD picking Blade's Edge Arena over Ruins of Lordaeron. I feel like Ruins of Lordaeron isn't really in particular that bad for Rogue Mage Druid. There's a lot of open field, which you'd normally give the edge to the Mage Druid. I'm not the biggest fan of this map selection from Battle for RMD, as they are sitting in their starting room. Fried Kitty is going to be maybe locking the door with a blizzard.
Bold move there, going for the blizzard at the front of the door. Huge respect. Yeah, I don't know. We've seen this a couple of times. It happens, especially on Mugambala, I think. We've seen some teams are kind of camping the start area. Changed my mind. I feel like since they're the most experienced team, they should be the one that goes for the play. Fried Kitty is going to start off the game. Death Grip from Rusty, and now we get the show going.
Yep, here we go. Blade Storm, a lot of pressure. Rewinder is in that room right now. Getting kidney shot, preemptive Iron Bark. He's going to have to use his Bark Skin as well. And Anti-Magic Zone gets traded out, but that was not Acro's Vendetta. That was not even Icy Veins. And look at Fried Kitty's Frozen Orb. It's already back off cooldown. This is a pretty bad opener, all things considered. I think if they can get a crowd control on Dre, there it is. Kidney shot. Acro might not have it just yet, but I really think that they should just pull the trigger on the Vendetta now that they have the CC and start getting that momentum, because there's no answer here with that Anti-Magic Zone. Acro, he's going to go ahead and use it right there. There's the Icy Veins as well. Frozen Orb comes in. Fried Kitty looking to do some serious damage here. Rewinder might just go down in the setup. Acro taking quite a bit of damage as well here. Bark's getting trinket on 1%. Is it going to be enough here, Aiden? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. It's looking like Rivender is going to be taking a riveting amount of damage here. Low Cyclones on both sides, Rusty with the steal. But I don't know if Cycloning Poike there was the play. Maybe Acrolaws with no trinket. They could have saved the Druid here. Instead, he's just going to fall over. The Crucible of Flame extinguishing him.
Some honorable mentions, like Gelu, who,
very
did
true.
a phenomenal job this year also. But that is just the thing. These compositions have just been so good all year. The Rogue, Mage, Druid, especially, seeming to be one of the most powerful compositions teams can really have available moving forward to the summer finals. We'll have to see what Battle for RMD can do in this matchup. Rivender gets caught into a sap. Cheap shot on Rusty into a full polymorph. Now Zray going to get opened on. This is a decent opener from Change My Mind. I mean, the fact that they got that sap, that really didn't accomplish too much. I feel like they should have just gone after Rivender instead of making an attempt on Zray, but we'll see what they can get done.
Mookie, are you worried about Acro and Zico's
No.
engagement at all? I know you guys have been spending a lot of time here over the summer season, and it's okay. You can talk to me about it. Zray the target here initially for Change My Mind. Studying up Rivet into a Cyclone. Beautiful crowd control initiated by Change My Mind. Even despite the War Banner, this could just be it. Iron Bark stabilizing Zray. He's going to trade out the commanding shot as well, giving him a boost of HP, but Rivender forced to trinket regardless into another polymorph. Blind still available and likely to be a KO here for Change My Mind in the near future.
Yep, big setup there, and there it is, full blind now. Zray in a lot of trouble here. I don't see Zray surviving this at all. If they have the follow-up here, actually, they dropped the chain, so no follow-up, but Zray might still go down.
Woo.
Nice low Cyclone.
There we go, Minpoike. That's what we like to see.
This is it, Minpoike with the low Cyclone there is probably going to carry the team.
Oh, no! Oh, Zray.
That was a... He's been playing lots of different classes. I don't think the Restoration Druid is really one of them. We'll have to see how this works out for Zizon moving forward. Wildcard Gaming, I feel like they had a really good read on the situation. They're playing Mistweaver, Elemental Shaman, Arms Warrior. This is basically the perfect composition into what Zizon is running. Mercy's going to have a really hard time in this matchup actually getting any sort of pressure out. We've seen Blizzo on that Warrior putting out massive damage. Looney forced to portal away as Nerd Rage looking to get aggressive. Mercy already in a lot of trouble. Jamie trinkets out, throws out the Iron Bark onto Mercy, but he could just easily fall. The damage from Zipa is remarkable.
Yeah, huge burst damage out from Wildcard Gaming, and all on the back of some of those new essences. They pair incredibly well with the Sky Fury Totem and the Earth Shocks of the Elemental Shamans. I know Zipai managed to bank a 158,001 last week, so he's looking to be annihilating his opponents here in game number 1. Jamie's mana already almost halfway down, 55 seconds into the match. I'm not sure what exactly he's spending his mana on at this point. Would have been maybe a good opportunity to activate the Innervate. Huge damage now onto Mercy, likely needing that unending resolve. Gladiator Safeguard gets purged off. Big sharpened blade. Mercy in a lot of trouble. Blizzo chopping him up. Zipai looking to follow up with an Earth Shock here shortly. Triggeting Lightning Lasso on Jamie to crowd control some heals. Mercy does have to ultimately trade his unending resolve, but he's still dying through it.
Yeah, big damage here onto Mercy. He had to activate his unending result, and he's just getting chopped here. Blizzo doing so much damage. Triple DR Stormbolt over onto Jamie. Not going to amount to too much there, messing up those DRs. He was in a Lightning Lasso earlier on by Zipai, and Mercy now trying to get a couple of fierce rolling here, but Blizzo...
Look at Looney!
He's just doing so much damage. Looney behind the pillar actually getting soloed by Nerd Rage. Sharpen Blade gets activated, Avatar gets activated, but he should be fine. Blizzo with a full fear onto Jamie, and Mercy could just easily go down in his execute range, going once, but it's
he's managing to hold on. Mercy gets interrupted. Somehow Jamie keeps him alive. Looney now kind of struggling to keep Blizzo up. There is good pressure. Nerd Rage just all over the map. He's been putting pressure on Looney. Now Blizzo in some trouble, but Mercy's still the one under fire. Wildcard Gaming have just been focused on Mercy the entire game. Jamie has managed to keep him stable, but 2.5 minutes into the game, Jamie's almost completely tapped on mana, and this pressure from Wildcard Gaming is going to be never-ending.
Yep, Mercy just under fire. Blizzo going into battle stance. Big sharpened blade, Mortal Strike onto Mercy. Going to be reducing the healing significantly onto him. Huge damage. Blizzo trinkets, they know they've got him on the ropes. Looney securing crowd control with the paralysis. Leg sweep to follow up. Mercy has been playing phenomenally to stall during these moments. Obviously, Jamie's going to be a bit inexperienced on the Restoration Druid, but still credit to Zizon for doing their best here against Wildcard Gaming. Certainly Mercy getting a moment to shine.
Yeah, Mercy though in big trouble here. Blizzo once again dropping him into execute range. Full Stormbolt. This could easily be the game.
Yeah, Nerd Rage even leaves. I feel really bad for Zizon. It seems like Drainer just threw to the summer finals to represent Europe.
All right, let's see if they can do it here. Wildcard Gaming looking solid now with that Windwalker Death Knight Druid that they played into Method Black. Perhaps if they advance further on, they will be able to overcome that hurdle that has been one that they've not been able to get over the entire summer season. Zeepai feared up early on by Nerd Rage. This does look like they want to go for an all-in Monk strategy on Looney. Obviously, Looney very experienced on this Mistweaver. I do not think that he is going to fall to an all-in strategy. Mercy running that rain from above, but he got... What was that damage on Mercy? While he was coming down from the sky, Zeepai just nearly eradicates him mid-air.
Yeah, that was crazy, and this is the kind of damage that we expect to see from Zeepai on this Elishama, but Mercy still getting chopped up. He has used all of his defense here. I-Beam comes out, trying to self-sustain himself. The darkness gets dropped. This is disaster for Zizon. Mercy really has used every single ability that he has left. Now he's disarmed. Blizzo looking to claim game number 2. Full imprisonment onto Looney on that life cocoon. Preemptive life cocoon on himself there, actually. Nicely done by Looney. Nerd Rage trying to connect, but Looney just line of sighting him. Zeepai with the lightning lasso. Jamie, what are you gonna do? He's trying to keep him alive with those regrowths. Now Zeepai on the pressure, and finally things are looking a little bit better here for Zizon.
Yeah, but I still feel like the Demon Hunter has become the Demon Hunted here for Wildcard Gaming. There's so much pressure on Mercy. Every single time he flies into the sky, he gets hit by lightning. Does seem to strike multiple times, though they are stabilizing a little bit. Nerd Rage dropping low, full stun on Jamie. He's going to trinket out. Die by the Sword still available. Blizzo and Nerd Rage going toe-to-toe. Warrior versus Warrior, though I must admit the backup on Wildcard Gaming for Blizzo certainly looks a little bit more stable. Zizon in dire straits here of game 2.
Yeah, this is looking very dangerous. Full fear on Jamie. Nerd Rage getting a little bit low. Blizzo charges over. Zeepai still trying to get the damage rolling. Wind shear secured onto Jamie. Zeepai's been on fire with these interrupts, but Jamie has been able to keep Nerd Rage alive, and it looks like Zizon have actually stabilized. In terms of mana, there's a significant lead for Wildcard Gaming. I don't know if Jamie's ever going to be able to really sneak away and drink. It's so difficult to deal with the purges coming in from the Elemental Shaman. It's such a fine balance between getting your heals out, trying to sneak away, get out of combat. The damage from Wildcard Gaming has been so significant. Innervate is rolling with Thorns. Jamie really trying to get some heals out. Now Mercy leaping up in the air, getting significant burst out, but it's Nerd Rage that could just easily fall in this lightning lasso. Oh. Paralysis onto Jamie, disarm onto Nerd Rage. He can't get the dive of the sword. And it looks like he will be able to survive massive heals from Jamie, but that was a really nice push by Blizzo.
That was sick. Looney used Ring of Peace to stop Nerd Rage from heroic leaping away. They stun him into disarm to try and deny die by the sword. This is the types of strategies I wanted to see from Wildcard Gaming with this composition. I think it has potential for them with the crowd control available in the burst damage. I would love to see it more from them. Mercy targeted down here. Jamie's in crowd control. Mercy likely to die. He trinkets out a lightning lasso, but a huge Earthshock lightning bolt from Zeepai, and this is...
Would have done that?
I don't know.
I mean, know why he would pick a map for me. Why wouldn't he pick a map to win?
Yeah, it is. Here's the thing about this map is it's a nice small map. It's a cemetery, so I mean, it has that going for it. We see 3 warriors in the midfield right now. Nerd Rage
Aspen Gold would be very happy to see this.
Yeah, someone hit him up. There's a lot of warriors in this game right now. Zizon trying to pull off a miracle here with the most random composition possible. Maybe it works out. Some damage onto Zeepai. Looney, though, in a position to recover and seems to be healing through it pretty easily so far.
Yep, we're gonna see if he can do it. Zeepai actually using his trinket there, an actual cooldown forced on Zeepai, which is more than they were able to accomplish in the last 2 games. Mercy though on that ward taking quite a bit of damage here. Safeguard is gonna proc a lot of damage here, but the nice disarm as well from Blizzo, kind of offensively. Sharpened Blade gets kited out a little bit by that Fury Warrior, and that Bloodthirst from the Fury Warrior is the reason why Mercy is basically running around at double the speed of Blizzo. He can remove the snare from himself, so it's very, very nice here as we are in game number 3 on Ruins of Lordaeron.
Game number 3 on Ruins of Lordaeron. Zizon locking this in desperation to try and get a victory. Obviously missing their main healer Drainer is going to be very stressful and possibly disheartening, but they're doing their best to battle back, just locking in a composition that nobody would ever expect. Blizzo the target. Looney trying to pick him back up, fake casting a charge pummel. Now needs to fake cast a second, manages to get through both, but now ultimately bashed up. Perhaps the target here for Zizon. Looney taking a huge amount of damage, portaling, but on top of Jamie. What? This is quite stressful for Looney at the moment. Blizzo at 50% health as well. Life Cocoon going to be overlapped with that Gladiator Safeguard, but Looney should begin to stabilize, and perhaps the double Warrior Dream is a reality.
Yeah, this is looking like a fitting comp for Zizon to really...
Yeah, fitting comp here for Zizon to play this one out.
Here for Zizon as they look to try to take down Wildcard Game. That was actually really close. Paralysis now on Jamie. Mercy, he's got nothing. He's caught into a disarm as he leaps away. Blizzo trying to close out the game. He's making his way, but Mercy doing a really good job kiting on that Fury Warrior in order to stay alive.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could be their final comp here as they're looking to put Mercy to rest. Are they going to be able to do it? The Lava Burst comes in. Is this going to be his final place here? Super Tease, Mercy dropping so low. The Psalm comes in. He's got the heals in 7 seconds.
So close to closing it out. And Ruins of Lordaeron would be a fitting final resting place as